Boy, that was kind of an abrupt ending there. As you guys probably know, I get my music free from YouTube Music Library. At least that stuff that they provide you is copyright free, so you can use it for whatever you wish, especially for YouTube use. I use that a lot on my drone videos, by the way. Anyway, it's been a busy week as always. Been answering a lot of questions. I have a one-on-one phone consult coming up this week. Haven't figured out exactly when we're going to do this, but it's already paid, so I am waiting for the person to contact me back and arrange a time. I've been dealing with a person, I think it's a lady who bought a 7800. That's a big 8-color printer from EPSON. I don't know what the width is. I think the 78 series is like up to 48 inches capacity, big floor unit. It's not a brand new printer, it's an older one, and it's been sitting around apparently for years. And she's trying to get it back to life, and she's having a lot of problems with it. I don't know whether I'll be able to help her or not, because again, I'm not really very familiar with these large format printers. They have a very sophisticated ink delivery system, and once that is neglected to the point where it's like years of non-use, it's very difficult to bring them back to life. Now, one thing that is good, I guess, on her side is that EPSON printheads can really take a licking. I mean, not like a Canon equivalent. Say a Pro-1000, that would be about the same capacity as the 7800. You cannot abuse that printer. You really cannot. It uses the same printhead as our beloved Pro-1000. All of these printers from the Pro-1000, 2000, 4000, 6000 use the same printhead. And the same, I believe, yeah, the 2003, 4000, and 6000 definitely use the same printhead. But I think they're all sharing the same printhead as the Pro-1000. At least that's what I have been told. So, you know how fragile they are. Thermal, printheads, they just cannot handle printing when you have a problem with a channel that is stubbornly not producing, a full nozzle check. In other words, you're skipping nozzles, and yet you're going ahead and printing, thinking that's going to clear it up. Well, no, it's not going to. It's going to cause more problems. So EPSON printers, yeah, don't worry about them. You can just, if you're missing some lines and you don't want to waste a ton of ink on a global clean cycle, and you need a magenta, just create a magenta big old document and print the heck out of it. It'll be fine. At some point, it'll either work or not, but you will not harm the printhead doing so. Not so with Canon. Canons are extremely fragile when it comes to doing that sort of very actually pretty strong type treatment. I mean, you just cannot print, is what I'm trying to come up with trying to say, that is, with a Canon printer, and just hoping that just printing alone will clear out a problem. It'll just add to the problem. And so what's happening with this printer, this is for you guys to know. If you guys find a deal you just cannot refuse, and you show up at the person's place of business or home, and they cannot give you an immediate on-the-spot demonstration about face, walk away. Unless they want to give it to you super, super cheap, don't even bother. It's just going to be a money pit. From that point on, you won't be able to just, maybe you paid X amount of dollars and you're going to pay then double to get that printer back to life. It really sometimes isn't worth the time and effort, and of course the money. So she's at this point trying to get, she's thinking that if she simply buys cartridges from like Ink Owl, I believe she's trying to buy, trying to use their products. And that has nothing to do with her problem. I mean, so she's going to buy refillable cartridges from Ink Owl. They could be from Precisioncolors. They could be from eBay, for that matter. Anyone that sells, these refillable cartridges for Epson, they're all practically the same anyway. There's only two basic designs to these cartridges, and they're produced out of the same factories in China. So there's no competition going on as far as these cartridges go. So whoever you can get them from at the best price, get them from that person, that store, that business, because they're all going to be basically the same. My cold is still lagging, is still there. I'm feeling a lot better though. I mean, yeah, I could tell immediately that I'm not as fatigued as I have been in the last few days, actually a couple of weeks by now. And so anyway, going back to those cartridges, she's going to buy a full set. She's going to buy a full set of inks. And we're talking, large volumes of ink. Gosh, I wish her all the luck in the world, because if that magenta channel that has not responded to anything she has done, and I just told her not even minutes ago that she's already done everything I would have done, and still no joy. I mean, she has absolutely no magenta, or very little, I believe. She is very inexperienced when it comes to printers. I think this is just something that she just wants to, get into, and she's a rank beginner at this point. So it's very difficult for her to express herself in the proper terms and language. So when I suggest something, she really has no clue what I am suggesting. I have to kind of break it down into more layman's terms. I asked her, check your ink line. Make sure that you see something pink in it, magenta. And be aware that there's another line with magenta, light magenta. She had no clue what I was referring to. So I had to kind of direct her. I don't know the architecture of a 7800 anyway, but I told her, open the lid of the printer somehow and look inside. You should see a ribbon of lines leading to the printhead. And the printhead is that thing that moves back and forth. And take a look and see if you see two lines that show magenta, a pink color. One of them will be a little bit lighter than the other. And so that's what and she says that yes, that there was ink on both lines. There's ink coming out of the cartridge, the cartridge valve, but there's no ink being printed. Well, then that tells me that it's at the damper level inside the printhead. See, these big stationary cartridge printers that utilize ink lines, they have little tiny, call them cartridges. They're just like mini, they kind of look like this, but they're just small. They fit inside that humongous printhead compartment system. It's a series of things with a lid on it and so forth, and the dampers are in there. The black ink switch valve lives in there as well. And yeah, so if it's inside there, then I think she is basically, you know what I mean. So what can she do? Well, I think at that point it's just a matter of having someone come over, removing the cover of the printhead assembly and addressing that particular damper, and see if beyond the damper, because the damper sits on top of the printhead, then there's a cover on top of it, encloses the whole kit and caboodle together. It's just like the Pro-1000, Pro-1, same thing. Those printheads, they have little mini cartridges inside, 12 of them for the Pro-1 and the Pro-1000. Yeah. And the Epson large format printers as well. They have whatever number of inks they utilize. That's how many dampers live inside. Okay. So if it's 8 color and you have 9 inks, then you will be sharing the black, of course. So that will then include the black ink switch valve. So what can she do? Well, I think it has to be professionally addressed, and really nothing much that I think she can't do. She's already done the, paper towel wetting process with Windex underneath the printhead, all of that stuff, and nothing has helped. I asked her, and this is what you guys should also, do when you're trying to fix something of this nature. You have a channel that is missing a lot, is fairly clogged, if you will. But is it really? So if it is clogged, okay, that means that physically there is some impairment in those little nozzle openings, and they're microscopic, only a few microns in diameter. And that's a thousandth of a millimeter, okay? 1 micron. So maybe, 8 microns in diameter, maybe less. It depends. Depends on the design of the printhead. Well, guess what? Pigment inks, they have particles. They can actually get stuck. They can actually start to clog up those little orifices. And how are you going to get that out? It's not something that you can melt away like you can with a dye ink printer. Dye ink will just redissolve, but pigment ink won't do that. You still have little rocks in there. Yeah, they're microscopic rocks, but they're still little rocks. They're little particles of pigment. And if they are resin encapsulated, that makes them a little bit more slippery, if you will, and less likely to clog. But once you switch over to third-party inks, very likely they will not be micro-encapsulated unless you're using John Cone and Precisioncolors HD inks. I believe the company that's making these HD inks for these EPSON printers figured out a way to micro-encapsulate these inks. But any other source will probably not be micro-encapsulated, especially those for a 7800. That's an old printer. So whatever available inks out there, they'll just have floating particles of pigment. So those clogs are extremely difficult to resolve. They're simply not going to, disappear or dissolve away into smaller. No, it's not going to happen. They have to physically be removed. And the only way to do that is you have to actually flush that particular channel, and you have to disassemble the whole printhead assembly, remove the printhead with a adapter that fits that spigot, if it is a spigot, to that channel. And we're talking about just the printhead at this point, nothing else. The tamper is removed, it is going to be replaced, and now if the actual channel is still clogged, you have to use a back and forth type unclogging method or flushing method. You add a little bit of fluid and aspirate, and aspirate. You might not be able to add anything at this point. So you continue doing this until you solve the problem, if indeed you do. You may not. Okay. Now going back to the nozzle check, here's what I was talking about earlier when I said this is something you guys should do if you encounter a problem with your channel. If it's a dye ink printer, very likely it'll just dissolve itself and will come back to life, especially an EPSON printer with a very good printhead, piezo crystal printhead, not thermal printhead. Okay, those can take a fair amount of abuse. So you do your cleaning cycle, you then run immediately a nozzle check, date it, time it, put it on your workbench, and then let that printer rest. Come back again before you commit to another wasteful cleaning cycle. Run another nozzle check and compare it. On an EPSON printer, you're going to see the little lines, 1 line per nozzle. So you're going to compare the two. What you want to see is an improvement. You do not want to see lines that were okay in the previous nozzle check all of a sudden now being blocked. That's a little odd, okay? That should not be happening, all right? What should be happening is that you gradually unclog those nozzles that are, clogged by dry dye ink. Eventually, they will be dissolved. That, Windex, paper towel, soaking method works wonders on a dye ink printer, okay? Not so much on a pigment ink printer, because there's nothing to dissolve, okay? You're talking about, let's increase the size dramatically. You're talking about sand suspended in a liquid so that it's buoyant. Guess what? It's going to clog at some point, and you cannot dissolve sand unless you use some sort of reagent that'll do that. That will dissolve silica. I don't know what that might be, but anyway. So keep doing those nozzle checks, and if you see improvements simply after doing a head soak, okay, and then you run a nozzle check and it improves, then you're on the right track. But what if you start seeing random results? What the heck? I mean, really, right? I mean, it should not be randomizing your results. In other words, nozzles that were okay now are not firing or not passing ink, and nozzles that were not okay are now okay. Well, that's not what we're looking for. That means something else is going on. And what can cause that? What agent does not print? Air. Air does not print. So if somehow, some shape, your cartridge is not sitting firmly, especially on a Canon printer, because Canon printers, unlike EPSON printers, well, this is a Canon printer, print head, the Canon print cartridge right here. They actually seal onto a, I would say it's like a silicone little O-ring. And the contact, the sealing is basically, what would you call it, passive, okay? There's nothing entering an O-ring like EPSON print cartridges do. That's a more invasive, I guess, sealing process, and actually more secure. This just relies on contact, okay? So if this is leaking or not contacting your print head O-ring securely, air can begin to infiltrate. Just every once in a while, you get a little bit of air in there. And so then you get this weird randomizing of your nozzle check, okay? Some nozzles all of a sudden get a little bubble of air, and the ones that didn't have air before now get ink, and it's just this random thing that will go on forever. You'll waste all your ink and solve nothing. When that happens, guess what? You just need to get that cartridge, toss it, and start fresh with a brand new one that's going to cause create a good seal. Okay, a seal that is optimal. No air can get in. Now, that will happen on Canon desktop type printers, not on a Pro-1000, not on a Pro-1. A Pro-1 utilizes the more invasive seal system. A spigot actually enters through an O-ring, and that O-ring tightly seals against that spigot, and that's how ink is transferred. Unless something drastically bad happens, there's not going to be any kind of leakage causing air to enter the system. Only these type of passive contact sealing cartridges, Pro-100, let's see, Pro-10, oh yeah, Pro-10 as well. You see that little oval shaped port right there? This is black, so it's just going to probably all blend. But that port, again, just passively seals against the printhead equivalent port. And so what happens is that you could conceivably have a lack of contact and a possible leaking of air into the printhead itself. Now, the Pro-10, the Pro-1, no, the Pro-10 and the Pro-100 do not have any kind of internal dampers, but the Pro-1 does. But see, that uses a good sealing method. So what happens if you start getting random results also with those printers? What to do? You know, what are you going to do now? That's what she may be having with her 7800. And if you have maybe a yard's worth of ink lines to deal with, not so much on the Pro-1, of course, or the Pro-1000, but these other printers, they have, I mean, they're this wide. Let me back up. They're like a yard and a half wide, okay? And that printer has to travel several feet back and forth. So it has to have enough length of ink lines to be able to, achieve that, amount of travel and not get all tangled up. All it takes is just a few bubbles to get in there. And those bubbles either move or they just don't. And they just kind of stay passive. It's like a glass of like 7-Up, and you see the bubbles attached to the side of the glass. And it takes quite a bit of agitation for you to dislodge them. That's what happens with the air that may get into an ink line, for instance. Hopefully not her magenta. That's why I asked her, please check the complete magenta ink line from the delivery system at the cartridge level all the way to your printhead. And she claims that there's no air in it. So that tells me that it's beyond that, something beyond that. Because she claims that her cartridge is producing ink, able to deliver ink. And I'm thinking, okay, how do you know that? I mean, she really doesn't know much about printers anyway. So I got to take all of this with a grain of salt that she's telling me. But again, this has been a mission for me this past week. I'm telling you, this has been nonstop. I've been dealing with this poor lady. And I hate to tell her that you are screwed. I mean, you have a printer that's going to become a doorstop if you cannot solve that. Yeah. And so otherwise, she says it prints beautifully, just no magenta. So anyway, enough of that. Let's say hello to everyone here. I've neglected you guys already too much. Notice, right pinned on the top. Guess what I found? A long time ago, I did the, let me see if I can activate this so you can see this. Through Teespring, which is the company that works through YouTube to allow you to search, to sell merch. And I forgot that I set up my cups, some of my mugs, and some of my t-shirts in there. So if you guys are interested, want to buy yourself a Christmas present, a little bit of me, so that you can enjoy your printing. As you are printing, you can drink some coffee out of one of these beautiful mugs. You can just go ahead and just purchase from them. And I believe that I also had that appear on videos. So let me go ahead and switch over to what I just noticed today. Yeah. I was running a video on my browser. And it's done. I just needed to see whether I was discussing something that a viewer questioned me about. And I did not realize that right below the description, there's my merch. The Happy Printing Everybody mug, the Happy Printing Everybody shirt, and yes, I am a photo printing techie mug and Happy Printing Everybody mug as well. Oh, Eat, Sleep, Print, and Repeat mug. So all of this is available there. And I haven't had a single order. I can't believe it. Anyway, I just thought that people might be interested in that sort of thing. I went ahead and narrowed it down to just a few items because I didn't want to sound like I was trying to merch my way through, everybody's wallet. But again, it's Christmas time. So if you feel that you can maybe give something to your other half that may be also interested in printing photos, if you guys are both photographers, you can share a couple of mugs, drink coffee while you're watching my videos or my live streams. How about that? Mine are upstairs, and I made a bunch of them for Nathan's and the other grandparents as well, with certain things that would only be personal to them, of course. But anyway, I just thought I'd show you guys that was actually there all the time, and I did not know. All right, so we have Robbie Cohen from Sonoma, California, and it's rainy up there. That's up in the, I guess, wine country up there. Yeah, I heard you guys are getting hit really bad this last day or so. Guido Elkins from Bruges, Belgium. I love Bruges. When I was there for 3 years, our son was born there. As I keep repeating every time I see somebody from Belgium. Yeah, we loved it there. Art Women Photography is here, and Cal Johnson is here as well. Charles Verbruggen is here as well. Stephen now Otarski from Michigan just got done with a printing job, EPSON P400. How do you like your P400? I'm curious, because I have the R2000. It's basically supposed to be the same printer, except for a few upgrades, and I absolutely love my R2000. I was able to buy a lot of really cheap OEM sets of cartridges for that printer. And so I can run that on pure OEM for quite a while now and not have to worry about it. That particular printer, I don't know whether the P400 is going to fall in the same category, because you can use refillable cartridges with it, no problem at all. But apparently the chassis is extremely well designed for what? For direct-to-garment printing or direct-to-fabric printing. And so DTG, they call it, direct-to-garment. And you can print, after they modify the carriage for the media transport, they can actually load a thin sheet of masonite or something like that, and they have a t-shirt, loaded on it, and they can directly print. The problem is that when you print on a darker material that requires white ink, titanium white ink, it's a special kind of ink that just likes to clog the living daylights out of printheads. And you can only do this on EPSON printers, not Canon printers. So what they do is they buy tons, and I mean like hundreds of R2000s. They sell the cartridges because they cannot use them. They have to use special ink for direct-to-garment printing. So they get rid of them for like, I was paying, don't laugh, but I was paying like $15 for a full set. I paid as low as $8 for a full set of 8 OEM cartridges for the R2000. So I probably bought about 15 sets during a period of time, of course. At that time, I was using refillable cartridges, and the inks that were available, although Precisioncolors came up with a very good ink set for it, just simply did not, come to the quality of OEM. So I was fortunate enough to find them. And again, that allotted me the freedom to print on the R2000 with just OEM ink and nothing else, getting the best results possible. So let's see, what else was I going to say? That particular printer, the difference between that printer and say the P600, which is a 9-color printer, you might say, well, 8 colors, no gray inks. How good could it be? Well, it's really intended for bright photographs that have high level of saturation, not so much, delicate tonality that you would need with a printer such as the P600 or higher. All of these families of printers, the 9-color printers, they're all the same inks anyway. So yeah, it's really intended for bright images, great for landscape photography, that type of thing. It really does a great job, and it can do 13 by 19, no problem at all. Monochrome, however, yeah, the only way I have been able to get a good monochrome that's neutrally linear, in other words, it doesn't change tonality from dark to medium to light tones. It stays neutral throughout. It's almost impossible to do with a printer without gray inks. So what do? You create a custom profile, then you're good to go. You actually get really good results with the P400, which is again just like my R2000. Now, what about black ink switch? Well, there is none. See, for a change, EPSON is utilizing their 8-color or 8-channel printhead with a 8-color ink palette. Perfect. Nothing is shared. The minute you switch over to matte media, it triggers the matte black for printing and disables the photo black for printing, and so on. So again, really good printer, and one that is sort of, not underrated, if you will, but it's a really good one. And if you guys just want to print for fun, nothing too super gallery quality high-end results, like maybe printing on very expensive fine art papers. No. The P600 will do that for you. The P400, that's a fun printer. That's for you to print for fun. You're going to print on glossy papers. You have Gloss Optimizer, which is like Chroma Optimizer. That does a fantastic job in evening out all of your your gloss differences. Now, I want to show you something. Now we're talking. I just ramble, and as I come up with ideas and thoughts, I continue. So I'm going to show you something. I happen to have this image here, and simply put, it's just a gorgeous sunset, as you can see, and it's just beautiful. And you might say or think, well, you know, what did you use? The Pro 100? I mean, that has fantastic gloss. No gloss differential. Well, yes, it does have gloss differential. You cannot see it. But right there, right where the sun is, that is pure paper white. That has no gloss optimizer. This was done on the Pro 1000 using only what they call auto setting on the gloss optimizer. So what happens is that, for instance, if I was to print, let me explain this. If I was to print this on the P800, there is no gloss optimizer. You're relying on the ink's gloss characteristics to produce a nice even gloss on something like this paper. Well, what happens often is that the inks are glossier than something like Pro Luster, okay, from Epson. This is their luster. I call it Pro Luster, but it's luster something photo paper anyway. And so what happens? This no ink border here has less gloss than the printed area. Okay, so now that I think of it, I think I did this on the P800. I correct myself. So what happens is that this sun right here has no ink on it. Absolutely no ink. So if it has no ink, then it's relying on just the paper's lower gloss, right? So the areas surrounding it are a lot glossier than that central hotspot that we call the sun in this particular picture. I'm trying to aim it here so you can see what I'm talking about. So the rest is very glossy, even gloss. The borders are less glossy than the actual printed material. Now, had this been done on the Pro 1 or the Pro 1000 or the P400 or the R2000 from Epson, and even the older 1900 from Epson, they all use a gloss enhancer. And so, depending on the way you apply it, either auto or full, auto only applies to where there's ink. So what would be the point of making my inks even glossier and still have a non-glossy or less glossy hotspot? Apply a full application, and that will cover everything, including the borders up to the minimum margin allotted, unless you're printing borderless. And there's a trick to that. Okay, there's a trick. I'm going to show you guys that later on. Please remind me, okay, because I tend to forget. So if you do a full application, this will be completely even. Okay, completely even gloss. Yes, it looks fantastic, doesn't it? But it really, in reality, when you're here with me and you look at it under, reflective light, you can see areas that are a little bit glossier than others. Depends on the density of ink. That's how it works. So the more ink, the glossier it is. Black is very glossy. Magenta, not so glossy. Okay? So areas that are orange, that require magenta and yellow, you're relying on the yellow to kind of, help that gloss deficiency that the magenta ink has. These are pigment inks. So yeah, having the ability to have a printer with a gloss enhancer will get rid of all of that for you. Now, here is something, let me think. What was that? If you have a paper that somehow has the same level of gloss as even a high density area, right here, then you might get a lesser difference of gloss differential. So, and that's all by chance, experimentation, and you continue to try these sample packs that you can get from various manufacturers and just see what works with your particular printer. You may have a printer that doesn't have a gloss enhancer, so you got to find a printer that will, a print paper, a media that will provide you with the most evenly applied tonality. Now, if you don't have a printer with a gloss enhancer, what you need to do is in the either a curve adjustment in Photoshop, or in Photoshop the levels, you can bring the highlights, what would be 255, no ink, in other words pure white, bring that down a couple of notches, maybe to 252, 253 maybe, and that will apply a little bit of density there. And so you wouldn't get a pure paper white, you would get slightly, not much, but slightly darker. So a little bit of density, that means a little bit of ink will be applied. And even though it's not going to be as glossy as the dark areas, you will still kind of mask out that just bare paper look. Okay. It really sticks out like a sore thumb. You should look at it. Yeah. It really is that bad. And so, again, what I can do with this, I have to spray it with something and to equalize all of the gloss throughout the whole surface, because the borders are less glossy than the print. The print looks like it was silk screen on it. You see what I mean? So yeah, not so good, not so good. So if you print on matte paper, matte medias, fine art type papers, you won't see any of this. That only happens on lusters, like maybe satin papers, semi-gloss, Barita papers, those barium sulfate coated papers. Usually those are fine art type papers. Yeah, that's when you will see this taking place. And it can be annoying, but it can be easily fixed. Again, just bring down your pure whites. In other words, don't edit your images so that they have anywhere across the whole image. Nothing can be at 255. Nothing. Okay. In Photoshop, 0 is black and 100 is white. So they're not using that 0 to 255 like a histogram does. But again, just bring those highlights down a little bit so that they actually contain a bit of density. That means that ink will be applied, and then you won't have so much of a differential. Okay. And again, it's all depending also on the media that you use. That was a whole discussion about just gloss. Okay. Hello from Chile, Richmond. That's Harold Goldberg. Hello, my friend. How are you? Spike597 from Madison is here, Wisconsin, that is. I know you guys are getting a lot of snow up there lately. My sister-in-law has been filling us in. She cracks me up. I'll tell you something funny, unrelated to any of this talk. My wife and I, we don't watch news. We hate the news. We watch something educational, something entertaining, and we're usually watching maybe English shows, like from England, Australia, other countries. I mean, I have found that our television content here is so bad that we either watch movies, we watch Netflix, and foreign type shows. By that I mean, maybe from the UK or Australia, and even Italy or France, whatever. As long as it's got, translated sound or what do they call those little words on the bottom, subtitles. So she keeps us abreast of anything that's happening in our town. She'll call us from Wisconsin and say, "Hey, did you hear that? Blah, 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 blah." And I go like, "Oh, thank you. Thank you for being my news service." And so she tells us about storms coming our way and so forth. But then I can't do the same for her because she's actually before me. The storms hit her first before they hit me. So, and again, I think we watch the weather every once in a while, but we don't make a habit of doing so. But anyway, I just thought I'd let you guys know that our Wisconsin connection keeps us abreast of anything important happening in the area. All righty. Jeff Thompson from Louisiana is here, South Louisiana. Art Women Photographer says, that's right, with the print hits with the Pro 1000, Pro 2000, Pro 4000, and Pro 6000. My Pro 2000 has the same print hit as the Pro 1000. So there you go. That means that they all share the same print hit, which is interesting because See, I love reading stuff like this, man, because that then opens up other questions and discussions. What does that mean? They share the same printhead. That would be like, I don't know, 4 or 5 cars that share the same engine and transmission, but they're all distinctly bigger and bigger models. You see what I mean? So what about the print engine? What is the print engine? It's like an algorithm. It tells the printer, okay, that mysterious brain that runs your print job, okay, what you get from the application that you edit from is just a bunch of pixels, okay, and each pixel has a value and a position, okay, along that grid that we call the image. So how the printer translates that information into a bunch of little dots being sprayed, they vary in size, they vary in position. It doesn't look like a screen. No, they're randomly laid down. Okay, they're scattered, sometimes even overlapped. Okay, dithering, they call it. So the print engine determines how best to take the information being sent to it by the application through an ICC profile, if you print that way, or if you let the printer driver do it, the printer driver is going to access the brand, its own brand of paper's ICC profile that is stored in your computer hard drive. It's going to access that. It's going to say, okay, here we go. I received all of these values. How do I go about translating these values into a little area, not a pixel? Because you don't see pixels when you actually look at your printed image. Even with a loop, you will not see little squares. No, you just see dots scattered everywhere, okay? And mixed. So how do I transfer that information into what should look like a very, very smooth, continuous tone with, with edges and detail, smooth transitions as well. No banding, no abrupt jump from this tonality to that tonality, because I don't know what would be in between those two tonalities. No. The print engine knows how to do this. And so I'm wondering if the Pro-1000 print engine is the same as the P6000, the Pro-6000, or the 4000, or the 2000. I tend to look at them as, progressively better and better and better, but apparently not. So my results, I don't know if Art can tell me if he gets identical results with either one of those printers. You can probably tell me that, yes, can you share the same ICC profile? That would be another question. If the print engines are identical, that means they're going to translate information identically. And they're all calibrated, okay, internally. You all know what that is, right? You run the internal calibration, and it sets that printer's output to a standard or factory standard. Because they're not like that out of the box. They have to be calibrated by you, the user. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 Pro printers from Canon. Do they output identically? If I was going to print a standard image, the same paper, same settings, same ICC profile, are my outputs on all 4 printers going to be identical or not? Okay. If they are not, then you would need ICC profiles for each one of those printers. Okay. If they differ even in the slightest bit, you would need to have individual profiling done for each, the 1000, the 2 grand, the 4K, and the 6K. Okay. I suspect that's not the case. If you want to talk about that, Art of Women Photography, I forgot your real name, my friend. I remember it was Italian. Steve, Italiano, yes. So go ahead and share with us some of that information if you happen to know. Okay. Cliff Fit from Denmark is here. JTL's Golf from Southern Cal. Lauren Marmer is here from North Carolina. John Hamby, Tucson, Arizona. Armando Martinez from El Paso, Texas. Guido says, I have a P600, as last year it will be pretty quiet around printing in December until after the holidays. Is it enough to do a nozzle check 3 times a week to be safe? Yeah, that's plenty. But here's the thing. A nozzle check really does not exercise your printer properly. Okay. All right. So you need to print something, especially if you expect ink inside your cartridges they don't have a sponge. They have a compartment of ink. Okay. Sure, it's channeled through various baffles and such, but still it's solid liquid ink living in that cartridge. And pigment tends to settle. So if you don't print, but just a nozzle check, guess what it does? Done. Eject. That's it. Maybe a couple more times, but it's not a real print job. Okay, it's not a real print job. Its only job is to tell you that, yeah, you have free-flowing nozzles, or no, you do not have free-flowing nozzles, and it'll then tell you which ones require help. It's really not going to exercise your printer. The best way to do that, if you own Qimage, you just run that unclog process. It'll generate a series of little lines here and there, all of them different colors, and you print that. That will do a lot more to exercise your printer than a nozzle check will. A nozzle check is just a diagnostic tool, not an exercising tool. Okay. Here is the hard truth. You need to print an image. Okay. Print a 4x6 version of the standard image. That's enough. That will exercise your printer properly. Okay. And then after that, run a nozzle check. See, printers cannot just sit. Okay. One way or another, you're going to waste some ink. Okay. And so if you're not producing prints daily, you'll be running nozzle checks and purge sheets. Okay. To keep that printer alive. In other words, free flowing. So, I mean, there's really no way to avoid this. And it's one of the things that I keep reminding people when they think, oh, I'm going to get a printer and I'm going to start doing my prints at home. Oh, really? Okay. Do you realize that you have to do this? I run out of fingers. You know, and so that comes as a shock quite often to people. And they don't realize that, oh my gosh, I never thought about having to get one of these for $5. Okay. And that's the older one, but again, they sell for about $5, or even this one, $1,500. Okay. Yeah, that's additional equipment you need to buy. And then you need to print, and then you need to make sure that you do the internal cleaning of the printers. You're spraying ink everywhere internally. Yeah, it's confined, but you cannot tell me that a few little droplets are not flying all over the place internally inside that printer. That's why the high-end printers have a vacuum extraction system that actually extracts that especially when printing borderless, that overspray. And overspray occurs also with regular printing as well. Okay. Don't think that it doesn't. It does to a certain extent, but not as much as printing borderless. My Pro-10, I never print borderless, ever. I have never printed anything borderless on it. And yet my Platen, which used to be shiny chrome, has, ink that you can just go like this with your finger and remove. So I have to go in there with a paper towel and some Windex and clean that up every couple of months or so. Keep that area clean. The more gunk you accumulate, the more likely it will end up as smudges on top of your prints, or even in the back of your prints as well. So yeah, not an nozzle check. Print something. Print something once or twice a week. That's really all you need, but it has to be something that contains a variety of tones, okay? And the standard image does. So that's the one I would recommend that you print. And just do like a 4x6. That's it. On regular paper, even. Just make sure that you run it at the highest resolution and you choose to print on not plain paper, but photo paper. It could be matte paper, it could be glossy, it could be luster, whatever. That will really force the nozzles to work harder. They will not be working so hard if you choose plain paper. Okay. All right. He also, this is Guido again, he also asks, the printer is new, 2 weeks old in operation. Sorry if the writing English is not okay. No, it's better than my my writing even in Spanish that I speak fluently. You know, even if, you know, don't apologize. You're doing really great. All you guys in other countries, they put us to shame here. Most Americans are not multilingual like some of the, like many of the European folks are. All right. Tango Gramophone. I love that one. Bought i1 Studio after watching your videos. Nerdish excited to get it. So yeah, once you get it, basically you will then make sure you update to the newest software. It'll do it automatically for you. The first thing you do is to calibrate your monitor. I have videos on that in my color management workflow playlist, and go back to my early videos where I actually take you through how to do that with this calibrator right here, which is just like the i1 Studio, exactly the same. Just the software is different. It's different user interface, but same thing. Use the advanced function, advanced, to calibrate your monitor, not the automatic one. No, that will not do a proper job. Advanced, and bring your luminosity of your monitor down to 80 CDM2. 80, it's going to seem dark. Work in a darker environment then. Okay. That way your prints will never be dark. That's the biggest, 99% of all the complaints from beginning printers is that, oh, my prints are darker than what I see on my monitor. That's because your monitor is too bright. Okay. It needs to be brought down. This room, no lights on right now. This is what I would edit on. Okay. Yeah. This is what I would be doing my editing on. This kind of environment. At night, yeah, it's automatic. During the day, all the shades are down. This room is dark. I can't even read a magazine if I wanted to. So bring it down to 80. It will look fantastic. Believe me, it'll be like watching the previews with the theater lights on and then watching the real movie with the theater lights off. You see, that's what you're trying to achieve in an editing suite. Okay, wherever you edit. Oh, I can't because my windows are up. Then this is the wrong environment for editing. It really is. You need to set up an environment that stays constant. Why? Oh, if it's not constant, then what is it? Inconsistent. You see, you will be adjusting your brightness depending on your room brightness. Okay, you don't want to do that. You want to remain constant all the time. So, again, another thing you have to take into consideration when you get into home printing or even just editing images just for you to keep or upload somewhere. You need to have your edits done consistently so that the density of your images sits in that histogram perfectly, right and left. Not shifted to the right or to the left, but right in the middle. Okay. That will give you always the same density, if you will, throughout. Of course, there are high key images and low key images, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the overall density. Nothing falls over the white cliff. Nothing falls over the black cliff. Once it does that, gone. Okay. You need to maintain that luminosity right in the center. If your room is bright and your monitor is then made even brighter, you're going to darken your images. Systematically, you will do that. And you won't even be looking at your histogram because you probably didn't even activate it. And you will not notice that everything is sort of darker than it should be. The printer grabs that information and prints you a beautifully darker than normal print. That's all it can do. because that's what you fed it. You have to feed it a print, an image that is the correct density. The correct density is the density of your standard image. You saw me demonstrate that. You did. And I show you how the histogram completely full of information. Okay? That's how it has to be. And so when you print that without any kind of editing, because that would ruin it, that then tells you what your printer can do on its own. So for the guy that just got that P400, first thing you should do after you set it up, run a nozzle check, make sure it's firing on all nozzles, print the standard image. Okay? Nothing else at this point. And then, while it's still open in your monitor, hold it next to it, not right there, but light it with sufficient strength light, daylight type light, and then view it and see if it matches. It will match in color, probably. If your monitor is halfway decently calibrated, it will match, but it will probably be too bright over here. And so that luminosity needs to be brought down. But only one of these objects here, instruments, can do that linearly. Simply turning down the brightness does not reduce the luminosity linearly. It's sort of more here and less here and more here. Yeah, that's how it works. It's not linear at all. Okay, let's continue on here. These are really good comments, and I'm on a roll here. Okay, Andreas Amador from Munich, Germany. Pro-100S, can you please talk about the distance printhead paper? Is it 2 steps? Where is the transition? I have no idea. I'm sorry, my friend. I have no idea what you are asking. Please try to reword that. I have no idea what you're asking. Distance printhead to paper. You mean the gap? The gap would be the old printers. The printhead hovers above the paper a few microns, really, just a few microns or thousandths of an inch even from the surface of the paper. So if that's what you mean, but I don't know what you mean, is it 2 steps? Where is the transition? I don't know what you mean. So again, I apologize. There's no way I would be able to write to you in German either. So I really admire that you have been able to write this. I just cannot really grasp what it is that you are asking. Drone Dogs from Kansas City is here. Henry Stoffel, hello everybody. Time to hit the like button, folks. All right, yeah, thanks for reminding me. Okay, Guido says, okay, I understand. Mark Y is, if you are printing with a P800 using only the neutral black on the black and white option, is that enough to keep all nozzles open? No, because it will not use cyan. Black and white mode uses your black of choice, either matte or photo, your grays, and a little bit of yellow and magenta, because for some reason, those are the only 2 colors that are necessary to neutralize linearly across the board a monochrome print. No, you have to print a full color image, preferably the standard image. Just print a little 4x6. That's all you need to do. That's all you need to do. And do that often enough so your printhead doesn't clog. Simple. Here's the thing. You cannot let them sit. Absolutely not. An idle printer will still cost you money. Okay? You still have to run these non-productive type prints. I mean, what are you going to do with, say, 52 weeks in a year and maybe twice a week? That would be 104 4x6s of the standard image. What are you going to do with that? Nothing. It's just useless. But you have to do it. You have to do it. Otherwise, you're going to have to run a cleaning cycle, and really, truly waste ink. At least you got about 104 pretty pictures of the standard image. Yeah, I know. I know what you're thinking. But, at least that's something tangible. But nozzle checks What are you going to do? Sell those? No, you can't do anything with those. It's just a diagnostic tool, and one that is not for exercising per se. It's just to diagnose whether your printhead requires a cleaning cycle if you haven't been printing enough. I don't know what else to say about that subject. You have to print. Okay. Drone Dog says, oh, I have a Color Monkey. Good for you. Good for you. That's an excellent, excellent instrument. I still have mine here. You can use it with the i1 Studio software. Works perfectly. It's just you cannot register that instrument through it, but at least it continues to allow you to use it as if it was registered. So it's a little bit of a better piece of software than the Color Monkey software. It's more, I don't want to say that it produces better results, but heck, I think it should, because it uses a lot more patches as far as your monitor calibration goes, whereas the Color Monkey software was very limited in what it was actually measuring, what it was actually telling the monitor to produce, and then read, and then determine whether that was correct or not. Yeah, the i1 Studio software produces, I think, 118 different patches that it reads, okay, and determines if it's good or bad, if it's correctly generated or not. And all of these errors are then corrected, and it creates a set of instructions that then allows the monitor to correctly, basically, display colors. Okay, so your images that contain lots of different values are correctly displayed instead of falsely displayed. You wouldn't want that, right? You want it to be correctly displayed. So that's why you display. That's one of the reasons to calibrate your monitor, for color correction. Now, luminosity is what we all fight with, because all of us suffer from the dark print syndrome. And so that's another separate category of calibration. Contrast, saturation, luminosity, all of those. And of course, tonality or white point. So if you were to generate a neutral gray square in Photoshop, 125, 125, 125, that would be a perfectly neutral tone square of a certain value, probably like a middle gray somewhere. That should be shown to you neutral. It shouldn't be slightly yellow or slightly bluish or cyan. So that's called a white point. Those are Kelvin temperatures, in other words. So you have to set it at the proper temperature. For monitors, it's D65 or 6500. So you will set your calibration software at its default D6500. Now, you calibrate it, then you come back and you take your printed standard image and hold it, and you look at your very neutral areas in there. You have some areas that are completely neutral, and compare them to what your monitor is displaying. If this has a warmer or cooler version of what you have on paper, then you have to adjust your color temperature up or down until it matches. So then you have neutrality. Your print is neutral, believe me, but your monitor may not be. So you have to go back, and all of those things, all of these aspects need to be tweaked to the point where your monitor's display of that standard image match. I mean match. Let me see if I have one here. I had it the other day. Match the results of that standard image. Okay? So your monitor has to match that. No, not the other way around. I don't have it here. I don't know where I put it. Anyway, not the other way around. Simple. Monitor has to display the standard image so it matches what your Pro-1000 produced, or your P800 or your P100. As long as you're using OEM, you're using a paper for that printer, manufactured for that printer, and you may have printed it with the driver. That's fine, because the driver will always print with the matching paper profile for that brand, okay? Not HALIMUN, not Red River, not Moab, but Canon or EPSON. We don't talk HP here because I know people really feel bad about that. Well, the truth is, HP doesn't make photo printers anymore for the home use, okay? They've moved over to just office type printers. And even though they can print photos, they're not really, photo printers. So we don't touch on those too much. But anyway, so that's it. You got to match your monitor's output to match your printer's output. Bingo, you're done. That's it. Everything you edit is going to match. It's going to match because you got both of those entities synchronized. People have a hard time figuring that out. It will come to you. It did. It took me a while to grasp that idea. All right. Henry Stoffel says, I have a R2880, which has a strange characteristic. Nozzle checks show gaps which mysteriously get corrected by themselves. Sometimes it needs cleanings, hand cleanings, other not so much. Okay, here's what could happen mechanically. See, we're assuming that surface, if you were to look at the bottom of a printhead, if you have a Canon printer, you can do that. You can actually flip it upside down and look at the actual nozzle plate. It's rather interesting. If you have a loop, you can look at it. Really neat. It's amazing. Assuming that the surface of the nozzle plate is perfectly clean, which it never is during use. Okay. On the R2880 specifically, that family of EPSON printers, their nozzle checks, I should say, are nothing like the ones for the Canon Pro-100, Pro-10, Pro-1. They produce bands of color, lines, in other words, but they're so close together, you can't really discern that they come from one nozzle. Okay, it just looks like a solid band of color. The EPSON creates little gaps, little lines, and they're all slanted in a slant. Looks like a bunch of little stairways, okay? And each block of nozzle lines corresponds to each channel. So if you see, they're supposed to be printed sort of slanted. So they'll print that way, assuming, here's the kicker, when a droplet of ink is expelled out of an EPSON printer, it goes out at a certain angle. Okay, remember the printhead is moving all this time. It's like you shooting with your water pistol, out your car window when you're moving. Good luck hitting a target. Okay, so, and you cannot move your pistol. It has to remain parallel. Your water pistol. It has to remain parallel. So the printhead is exploding little droplets of ink. If there's absolutely anything around that nozzle orifice that can divert the direction, the angle of that little droplet of ink that creates that line, it will make a crooked line. And it'll fix itself. If you wipe the bottom with paper towels, it'll be fine. Until the next time. You're using pigment inks. Remember, pigment inks have particles. And it just takes a couple of particles stuck. Make believe that this is a giant nozzle. Okay? And you have a couple of pieces of, I'll just use this. A couple of pieces of pigment stuck to the edges. Here, and maybe over here. You still have a big opening. You can still shoot, ink through. But those little particles will divert the angle that little squirt of ink comes out. And so it will change the angle of the little line. As long as that little line is firing and you see ink, it's not a complete missing gap, you're okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just continue printing. You're worried about microscopic level situation. I have a 3800 with about 4 or 5 scattered magenta nozzles that are permanently damaged. Okay, nothing I do will change the look of the nozzle check. they print beautifully. It prints beautifully still. So again, don't worry about it. It's nothing that serious, unless it really gets worse and you start seeing like areas or groups of lines that are not firing at the correct angle. That will begin to affect the image quality. But if it's just scattered here and there, 1 or 2 or 3, it's not going to really do anything. And if it's something, like I said, random, that goes away, comes back, it's a little bit different this time, a little bit different that time, and so on. Again, what can you do? Not much. You can continue to do the cleanings with the paper towels, but you know what? Eventually, you're going to abrade the bottom of your print head. Okay, paper towels are not that smooth. Okay, it's not like gauze or something really, or microfiber cloth for cleaning your glasses. No, it's eventually going to abrade your nozzle plate. It's going to cause more problems than you're actually solving. So you can only go so far, and then it becomes kind of excessive, and you end up with accumulative damage, if you will. Okay. Henry Stoffel also says Qimage clog pattern occasionally prints a blob of black ink like a stuck valve. Only the Qimage pattern never seems in a regular print. Only in the Qimage pattern. I don't know. That could be a leaky cart. The 2880 does not, you manually switch your photo black and your black matte, your matte black manually. So if you got a leaky cart, are you refilling? You probably are, and it's probably that. It's probably a leaky cart. I have the same problem too. It happens. It happens. The only way to solve that is OEM inks. Those cartridges are EPSON cartridges. If you were to open one up, you'd be shocked at the interior. It is a maze of technology in there. Okay, it's not just a plastic compartment like a refillable cartridges. Okay, yeah, it has all of these areas, little passages, and it's got a diaphragm valve that opens up and allows air to vent out and vent in, and all of this stuff. It's really quite sophisticated, and probably the reason we pay so much for these OEM cartridges. Unfortunately, they cannot be modified for refilling, because that would allow you to then use those cartridges and get the best ink flow, right? Because that's what they provide. Yeah, I mean, I assume you are refilling, so that's all I can tell you, that you probably have a leaky cart. It happens with me as well. Okay. Guido says, okay, 4 by 6 inches or 10 by 15 in our world. Yeah, centimeters. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Andreas Amador says, sorry, my bad. I meant the distance to different papers, thicknesses. Yeah. When to use the prevent abrasion. You use a prevent abrasion when you need it. Okay. Only when you need it. When you notice that the print head is kind of rubbing the surface. As the print head enters, it will always enter from the outside edge. Okay, so if this is loaded this way, print head's always on this side. As it enters, if it rubs against the surface, it will produce a smudge, a mark. They call it an abrasion. So then you activate prevent abrasion. That's all you have to do. And then after that, it will basically ask you every single time, hey, you set this up, you want to continue using it? You just kind of click and say yes, okay. And it will go ahead and print without any kind of print head strikes. So print head strikes the edges, you're going to get an abrasion mark. I believe what it is doing is enlarging that gap, or making it wider. So, but you got to also make sure that your print head, that your paper is nice and flat. So, for instance, here's one of my Pro-100 prints. So if the paper corner is curled upwards a little bit, it will get a head strike. So what I do on purpose is always curl my edges down a little bit. Not up, but down. And that will ensure that, you know, they're not going to be sticking above at a certain height that will be then hit by the printhead. Once the paper passes through and gets caught by the platen rollers, the platen is that silver from right all the way to the left strip of metal with little rollers and also pizza wheels and all of this stuff. Once it goes under that, then it's not going to be, you know, affect that much. So it kind of gets trapped and it's now being held down, if you will. So let me share with you guys. This is my channel right here. And I know some of you were asking about PayPal and Facebook, Amazon, and my Patreon link, and of course my product page, which again, I don't have a lot of products, but this is where you can order custom profiles. You can get a few pieces of merch here. I can only make mugs at this point. I wasn't getting very good results with the t-shirts. That's why I decided to keep it over at the Teespring site that you can order. In fact, right above here, you can access that if you wish. But basically, you can come all the way down and book a one-on-one, 1 hour, $45 with me. We'll set up a date. I will solve your problems or lead you in the right direction. If you need to order profiles, you click on here and follow all of these instructions here. You got to do this properly. You download the files you need to print here and print them correctly using a specific application. Yes, that is absolutely free and will print those files correctly, okay, without any kind of color management introduced by the application. The files need to be printed in such a way that way when I scan them and I produce the profile for you, it will be correct. PayPal. Right here, you can donate on your own if you wish to donate to the channel by doing so. Amazon, right here. And this is something that a lot of people have been highly confused. I got a lot of drone stuff now, as that has become very popular by some of my followers. But if you scroll all the way down, I got lots of things pertaining to photography. Too many to show you individually. That's why I'm doing it fast. All right, so as you can see, lots of things. You can order directly from there. What I suggest you do, if it's possible, if you do not mind, is to bookmark this page, okay? And then from now on, use it to order all your Amazon supplies. You can't find something that you're looking for on my list of items, search. Just search for it yourself. As long as you're within this particular site, in other words, it'll be amazon.com/shop/Jose Rodriguez. One word. And you can access that directly right there where I just showed you. Yeah, you can just go ahead and order, and that way the channel will earn revenue that way. Instead of having to rely on YouTube and AdSense and all of that. That relies on you guys, the viewers, to allow the advertisements to play. A lot of them, folks that watch my videos, don't have the patience to sit through multiple, ads. I know I don't, but if I am supporting someone watching their videos, I allow those ads to run. If it's going to be a 2-minute ad, I'll go to the kitchen and get me a bit of a refreshment, and I come back when it's done. I'm ready to go. Enjoy the video. And again, if you do anything at all, just let those things run, and that way you support the channel basically indirectly without having to spend a penny. Just a little bit of your time. That's all it takes. All right, enough of that. Let's go over to Precisioncolors. Someone said not too long ago, hey, he's not selling any more OEM ink for the Pro-1000. And I thought, really? I wonder why. Maybe the source dried up. So I contacted my source, and he is still actively doing it. So again, no reason for that not being available. Let's go ahead and look for real. Let's check it out and see if that is indeed the case. So we'll go over to the 12 tank printers, the Pro-1000. Boom. We are here. Refill supplies. Here's the single-use chips. Here are the colors. When you buy the regular Signature Edition ink set, you will receive third-party, extremely well-matched cyan, magenta, photo black, photo cyan, photo magenta, gray, photo gray, and matte black. Now, due to the extensive testing that he went through, he realized that it could not match the red, OEM red, or the blue OEM ink, or the yellow OEM ink. So he is providing you with these 8 third-party well-matched colors and these 3, actually 4 Chroma Optimizer as well. OEM, different price, of course. Excuse me. Now, if you wish to use 100% OEM, he has the other colors available too. The same ones, the same 8 that were not available, that were available in third party, are also available in OEM over here. That takes a lot of work, folks. That means he has to order 700 ml cartridges and then aspirate each cartridge so that he ends up with a load of 82 milliliters to fill a bottle with. That means when you buy the inks in this fashion, you fill up your 100 milliliter syringe with the 82 and vacuum fill your cartridges. Perfectly done. And then swap the single-use chip. You know, remember the auto reset chips do not work except for one time. You can always disable ink monitoring if the printer allows you to do that. It's been a little bit kind of iffy, okay? It has not been an exact science, if you will. So again, I'm still working on that myself on my own Pro-1000. But anyway, the single-use chips work perfectly well. I own my second set of chips for my printer at this point. And again, some of the other ones have not been exchanged because they're still haven't reached empty. But anyway, yeah, there it is. He's selling all of the colors in OEM fashion as well. So again, I don't know where that information was being passed around because it's not actually true. It is available, as you can see right here. Okay, let's get out of that. Let's go over here to the YouTube, maybe YouTube, or let's see if there's any more questions. There's a couple of new questions here. And then we'll go over to Photoshop. I'm going to show you guys a little bit of a demo. I hope that goes well. Usually I screw up royally. Come on, reset. Let's see what we got. Oh, okay. Drone Worship is having a live stream. I see that. All righty. Okay, so someone was asking a question about the media configuration tool. That only works with all of those beautiful printers that Art of Women Photography has. Okay, the Pro-1000 and up. All of those IPF printers from Canon, you can configure media from other manufacturers so that you will then have an actual paper choice available in your drop-down menu. And basically what you do, you use the media configuration tool to kind of test that particular paper, find out what gap setting you need to use, ink density you need to use, whether you need matte black or photo black, whether you need this or that, you know, Chroma Optimizer or whatever, all of that. And then you save that information. This is very simple terms for you. You save that information, and it gets sent to the printer. And then from the printer through your driver, you have it sent to your driver. You close your driver, you reopen your driver, and then it will be found in a folder called Custom on your drop-down menu. The problem is with the current firmware, not the new one. I think I can only load about 6, 7, or 8, depending how many other needless media configurations I can delete. You can do that to make room for your new ones. So what I did to make life easier for me, I wanted to do Red River papers. Rather than me do it, they've already done it for me. So they have the file that you can download and then load into your printer using the media configuration tool. Then from the printer to your driver, and then from your driver, close it down, open it back up, and it will be available there. So when you upgrade that firmware that everybody's talking about, it increases the number of saved media configurations on your Pro 1000 and up to many, not just maybe 6 or 7, but to dozens. So you can download every single paper that you use from a given manufacturer, as long as they provide you with a media configuration file for the Pro 1000. It's only available for these Canon printers, okay, not EPSON. So he was wondering why he can't see it in his driver. Yeah, but you have to install it in 2 ways: from the computer to your printer, from the printer to your driver. Close the driver, and then open up the driver again, and it'll be there. So I hooked him up with a couple of my videos where I actually showed how to do that. Okay. If you guys have a P600, you know that it uses 9 colors. This is another question. So I have videos way back in the past where I was showing you guys, ways to save and still be able to use OEM inks. And so you need to scour, eBay, looking for compatible. I don't mean the term compatible, but I mean where the inks are identical for other models of EPSON printers. For instance, like the P600, you can look at a larger short color printer that uses 9 color inks. Buy large cartridges, suck out the ink, and then refill your P600 cartridges with those inks. You'll be printing at a much lower cost per milliliter than you would if you were just continually buying P600 cartridges. So refillable cartridges work perfectly on the P600, at least so far. So you can buy, find a model short color printer that uses 9 inks, just like the P600. They'll be identical because all the short color uses that HD technology. So get those cartridges, suck out the ink. Now you could find them often. And what I did was, I was lucky enough, I found a set of cartridges, brand new, sealed. Brand new, sealed, okay? Did I say brand new and sealed? Yes, I did. $90. 110 milliliters of ink each one. Couldn't pass that up. So I got those, and that's what I'm running on my P800 at the time. You see what I mean? So then I also found others. So I combined them all together, the same inks. So right now my P800 is working on full OEM. Bam. As you saw this. So that, yes, I am refilling. Yes, I am using a chip decoder board. Yeah, so I'm kind of cheating my way through the system, if you will. But I'm using OEM, and I'm paying probably half of the amount, maybe even more, because I think, 110 times 9 divided into $90, plus shipping. Yeah, I'm doing quite well, okay, with that printer. So not a problem. Buy cartridges that are large enough volume, 300 and something milliliters, and you'll pay a lot less per milliliter that way. Even if they are slightly out of date, it's fine. It'll be fine. No problems at all. I haven't had any kind of problems with ink that came from sealed cartridges for like the 4800. I buy 220 milliliter cartridges that way for like $40, okay? And then I extract that ink. And if I'm refilling a printer that uses only 29 milliliters, divide that into 220, that'll give you the number of refills. And boom, you're saving a ton of money, okay? Especially when a new cartridge by itself is $20 for the R3000. Yeah, so that's one way to defeat, or at least alleviate the cost of printing, and you don't have to give up anything because you still get the print quality and longevity. When you switch over to regular, everyday run-of-the-mill, third-party inks, you're losing on longevity. Okay, if they're very well matched, you get that color match, but you lose, maybe 90% of your longevity. Yeah, that much. Okay, 90% in some cases. Alrighty. John Hamby says, I just ordered Canon Pro-1000 OEM from Precisioncolors. Yes. Very good. I haven't spoken with that man for at least a month and a half. I really need to call him up. He's probably very busy, as he hasn't even emailed me for anything. He usually emails me just to chit-chat and maybe get a call in here and there. And yeah, he's got to be busy. Again, don't get all upset because he doesn't answer your email like that. I do that. Okay. Yeah, I'm busy. I'm a busy guy too, but I don't run a business, so I don't have to be. I could be out somewhere and I will answer you on my phone. But he can't do that. He's too busy running his business, trying to get his website halfway decent working. Again, he's doing everything by himself. His wife helps him somewhat as well. He's flushing cartridges constantly, preparing all of the kits so that they're ready to go. Yeah, it's a lot of work. I wouldn't be answering silly questions on email. I don't mean that in a bad way, but most of the questions are rather silly. Come on, like like, is this a good product? Yeah, don't ask something like that. If you have a question about any of his products, I'll act as a go-between. Just email me. Okay, my email is available on my About tab on my channel window. Okay, my channel page. So just go there, email me. I will answer you as best as I can. I know everything he sells. Okay, and I've tested just about everything he has sold in the past and is currently testing or selling, I should say. So just email me. That'll give him more time to not have to deal with questions and phone calls and oh my gosh. Yeah. It's if he stays on the phone with you for an hour, guess what? That's an hour more he has to work that night. So yeah, just contact me. I'll take care of you. I'll take care of you. If it's something that I cannot answer, I'll contact him. He'll answer my phone calls, believe me. Okay, Jose, PC inks are too expensive for us European. Yes. If we charge everything, shipping via Skybox costs one cart $58 from PC, while the ink in Belgium costs about $43. Yeah, well, what can I tell you? I cannot defend that choice that he has made. I've also stopped shipping anything that I may have for sale overseas. Things were getting lost. Again, we're not a company. He's a company, but he's not a big company with a shipping department that can deal with these problems. Shipments getting lost, shipments getting damaged, shipments being delivered to wrong addresses because the seller's PayPal address was wrong. That's happened to me. I sent something to France only to find out the guy moved to Portugal. Eventually I got it back, but it was damaged. So I stopped. I'm too small. And he's, by all intents, also small. He can't afford to lose 10% of shipments overseas or 15%, due to addresses being wrong, and they get over to New York because he ships everything through the USPS. Yes, he's in Canada, but he comes across into the United States and uses USPS because the majority of his orders are from the US. And so that way we, the buyer, get the best deal as far as shipping costs. You would not want to ship from Canada, believe me, okay? You would not do that. You would not want to do that. So from Canada. They cross the border to the US. USPS goes over to the New York for overseas, to Europe, or San Francisco for overseas to the Pacific. And if the paperwork was not filled out correctly by the buyer, address-wise and so forth, they didn't update their PayPal information, it gets stuck in New York. It'll stay there for quite a while. Eventually, they'll contact the seller, and it might be returned, or they'll make an attempt to send it to Europe, and it'll get bottlenecked in customs somewhere. It's just not worth it. Not worth it for the small amount that he would be selling over there. So Europeans, okay, why don't you try my friend Martin at Octo Ink. I think it's octoink.co.uk. Again, the inks are good quality. They're not as well matched as Precisioncolors goes through the trouble of doing for all those Canon printers. As far as EPSON printers, yeah, good supply of inks, good service, good products. He also has those serial codes for resetting the waste ink counters on EPSON printers as well. And so you can use the WIC tool, use a reset code you purchase for, I believe it's $9 equivalent or $10 equivalent, maybe €9. And you can reset your Epson so-and-so back to 0. And then you have to figure out a way to divert the next batch of generated waste ink to some sort of external container. He sells a made already set up, ready to use external ink catcher. Calls it the printer potty. Very humorous, but it really does the job. I have one of those. He graciously sent me one to review, and I loved it. And yeah, once you install that, then you don't have to worry anymore about where your waste ink is going. Unfortunately, you cannot do that on Canon printers. Only certain family of Epson printers. He also, I believe, provides you with instructions how to proceed to perform that operation and how to do it so that you do not damage the printer in any way, or at least make it look like you did something to it. You can always go back in time, if you will, and then revert the printer to its original condition. So in case you need to have it serviced for some other reason, it'll be fine. Nobody will know that you were doing that. What do I think about the Canon print app? Misty Wasink. I think it's good. I don't use it at all myself because it's really meant for like someone just beginning to get into photo printing using a Canon printer. That's it. It just does too many things automatically for you, and I'd rather do things manually. But it's good. It's good. It's got some really good features. If you have a particular image and you don't know too much about color management yet, so you just want to kind of print this and make it look, not necessarily match your monitor, but you want to make it look great in your hands, you can print what they call, it's a certain type of test print, a pattern print. Well, it will take that little image, your image, make it real small, and will create a mosaic in varying amounts of adjustment. You just locate the one that you prefer. It may not be the one in the center, okay? That'll be the as is. Then the other ones will be adjustments that the driver applies. And so, or the PSP application of price is really a plugin. And then you just locate the one you want. It'll give you a set of adjustments. You apply those adjustments and then print. So yeah, you will waste 1 or 2 sheets of paper to arrive at your final destination, which will be a perfect print, as perfect as you think it should be. You have one for, I believe, brightness and contrast, and then the other one is for color. So if you want to do both, it'll take you 2 sheets of paper to achieve that. And then you use the 3rd sheet of paper. So yeah, it's a little wasteful, but for important prints, you're there. I mean, it'll take you spot on where you want to be. good layout possibilities, not as good as some other applications. And pretty much color management is automatically applied as long as you're using Canon paper. Okay. But then again, you can just do that yourself manually by using the driver. It's just going to use the driver to print. It's going to use the ICC profiles for Canon papers that are available in your hard drive, in your computer. It's going to apply those automatically without you having to think about it. It's going to turn off color matching on your driver as well if you want to print with an ICC profile. And if you just tell the driver to control color, it's still going to just print through an ICC profile. It's a win-win. But again, it's just a little bit too simple for me. I'm at that point where I don't really need it anymore. I do have it. I have it installed. No problem. It's good. It's good. It'll get you going and have you not make silly mistakes because it's going to take care of you. In other words, it's going to make sure that your settings are correctly chosen. As long as you're using Canon paper. Okay. John Hamby, I think his mother has been ill. Yes, that's another issue as well. His mom and also, I believe, his wife's mom, who lives in one of the islands in the Caribbean somewhere. And I know they're going to be taking off during the Christmas week. So again, make sure that you order well before that so that your order will be shipped before they stop and close the store down, if you will. And you'll have to then wait till the new year to get anything shipped to you. Andreas Amador says, okay, so I have to try and fail. For example, glossy 2 is 0.27 millimeters. Canon magnetic paper is 0.33. Use prevent abrasion. Yeah, if you're worried, Andreas, if you're worried about it, just set it, okay? Just set it. Right from the start. In fact, I think my Pro 10 right now is set for that. I just leave it. It's not going to really affect anything. Even, if I decide to print through a thinner paper, it's not going to affect that. But it's going to be ready if I need to print through a thicker paper. So Tango says in Germany. Oh, wait a minute. Pete Ranieri from Western Canada. Thanks for all the advice. Getting back into photography and printing again as the cold, dark winter sets in to keep me busy. Wonderful. Okay, Tango says in Germany, a company called FIRMWARE is known as serious seller of pigment inks. I am using OEM inks, but they really helped me with information, and a friend recommended them to me. Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, okay, I want to say that there's only a handful of companies, labs in the world that produce inkjet inks, especially OEM like inks. In Germany, that's oh wow, now I totally forgot. The big German ink company. Anyway, it'll come to me. And they make great inks, except that the earlier versions had really bad gloss differential problems. Okay. So I don't know who is supplying this company. I don't know who's supplying them now in the U.S. There's a company called STS in Florida somewhere. They actually bought out Image Specialist, which was the big U.S.-based pigment ink making company. Also dye inks for Canon and EPSON and yeah. So and many other many other printers as well. So I know that Octo Ink in the UK sells Image Specialist inks. So imagine they have to order from us. Yeah. So they're paying a lot as well. Lyson also makes inks. I believe that they are a maker of inks, and they sell them through what's that other group? Oh man, my brain is dead today. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, when you're overseas in Europe, you have to buy from a European-based company, so you can use euros, for instance, as universal European money, and not have to deal with U.S. shipping. Lucky for me, when I buy something from China, I mean, I get it. I don't have to pay any kind of tax or anything like that. Usually shipping is free. I don't know how they do it, but I know we can't do it from here. Shipping over there, we have to pay. We have to pay. Oh, Pete Ranieri says, I emailed you earlier this week asking for any suggestion or recommendations you would have on scanning older photos and negatives. Hope you got the email. Yeah, if I did, I meant to get back to you and I probably forgot. I would need to know what size negatives we are talking about. If it's anything larger than 35 millimeter, I would use an Epson. I have an Epson Perfection V500. I would go a little higher than that and use that scanner. It'll scan really great on your negatives. It'll do a really good job scanning your negatives as well as transparencies. But I had the V800 that I used at work. It's an $800 machine, but wow, it was fantastic. And it did a great job. Now, you can pay a ton of money for a small scanner about this big that'll do, I think, up to 120 millimeter wide film. But it was basically made for 35 millimeter negatives and transparencies. You want a scanner that will have the highest native resolution possible, so there's no interpolation taking place. Okay, that's what you want. Everything else is pretty much normal. You want to scan using the histogram. You want to make sure that you're not clipping your black point and your white point and so forth. And then you got a negative that is inside the maximum ends of the histogram, so you can bring them into an editing platform and edit them at that point, making sure that you very expertly and exactly bring and set that blackest black to black or just above black, and what would be the whitest white to just under white. And then you do all of your other adjustments as far as density, burning in, dodging, just like you would in the darkroom. That would be a whole discussion, my friend. That would be like hours and hours of talking. There's a lot to be done. There's a lot of videos online on YouTube right now covering that, and there's a lot of people that have gone back and they just love the look of film, because film has grain structure, and that grain structure is everything. It's not pixels, it's clumps of black silver, and that gives you that look of film. Now you can scan it at the highest resolution possible, so you're resolving beyond the grain structure to something smaller than even the smallest bit of silver grain. Okay, once you get to that level of resolution, then you have hit the jackpot, because then you can print this, enlarge it to the point where you can see the grain. And we didn't use Tri-X film back in the 60s and 70s for no reason whatsoever. We loved the graininess, the grittiness of that look. And those bands, like I had the pleasure of photographing Jimi Hendrix, okay, back in the early 70s in San Francisco at the old Fillmore West. Anybody in the U.S. that knows what that is, Fillmore East, Fillmore West. And I used Tri-X, pushed 2 stops. There was hardly any middle tones to any of these images. It was almost black and white and gritty as can be and grainy. It was fantastic. Digital cannot produce that. You cannot use any kind of grain producing filter in your editing application that will give you the look of film, because that was a non-linear look. Okay, Areas that had hardly any silver being developed contain very little grain. Those would be your shadows. So your shadows were not grainy at all. Your highlights were composed of heavy deposition of silver in your negatives, very grainy. So again, shadows had no grain, middle tones had more, and as you get to your brighter highlights, you had more grain. So people's faces, like fair skinned people, you'd see that grain structure. It would hide blemishes and all. It was wonderful. Yeah. By today's standard, that would be considered too gritty. But back then, man, that was the look. So if you want to have that look, you have to go back and scan your negatives. And then, now you have the pleasure and the ease of not having to work in a dark room full of stinky chemicals. Wearing gloves, because you shouldn't be touching those chemicals constantly anyway. Acetic acid, sodium disulfate, No, you don't want to use any of that stuff. So, again, it was bad for the environment anyway. So, now you can take those scan negative files and print them and edit them. Bring them to a level of perfection that you could not really achieve in the darkroom. You want to see what some of those files look like? In the American Library of Congress website, I forget how I even got there. There's a section where you can actually download scanned images or negative scans of their library, vast, humongous library of old negatives that are now, what do they call that? Common source. And you can actually download them. You can actually sell prints from them. No one's going to come after you. They're like, there's a term for that. I forget. Anyway, so no one can get that look. Okay, no one can get that look using a negative. I'm using a 100% digital process from a digital camera. No, you cannot get that look. So far, I have not come across a type of a plugin that will give me that particular look. It's just not possible. I've tried, believe me. Creative Commons, that's it. Thank you so much. Okay, one more question about the P800. This is from Mark Y. When you turn the printer on, does it do some sort of nozzle cleaning? It makes that kind of noise. Yes, it does, of course. People complain about the Canon printers doing that all the time. Well, EPSON will do that too. If you neglected that printer, I don't want to yell at you. Okay, I have no idea what your printing habits are. But if you neglect even an EPSON printer long enough, it's going to precede anything you do with a cleaning cycle. It's going to be a preliminary cleaning cycle that will hopefully clear out whatever may have been clogging. Maybe not. It's going to run it anyway, regardless. My P800 does that. My 3800 does that. My 3880, R3000, they all do it. 2880, they all do it. Don't print for a long enough time, it will run that. Now, what's that magic number of days? I have no idea. It depends. I guess it depends on the printer and the situation. I don't even know. It's sort of random, but when it does it, believe me. So if I haven't used my P800 for a while and I try to print something, I better run it. I better preemptively myself run a clean cycle. I had to do a job for my daughter. Okay, I printed a bunch of little labels to put on cups. So we duplicated the Starbucks logo. My other daughter, the graphic artist, did it for us, and she put Nathan in the middle and come drink some. I think it was cocoa, and he had a pajama party. All the kids came. They each had their little cup with the logo, and then I made an apron for my daughter with a large version. I printed it on canvas, and I then adhered it to the apron with an iron, and it was perfect, like you bought it at the store. And so I ran it on my P800. Well, guess what? Yeah, dumb me. I try to print. I have a roll inserted in there right now, 100 feet of paper. Well, it won't let me run a nozzle check when I have that size paper in there. I need to go back and remove that roll and put some regular standard, letter size paper. I didn't want to have to reinstall my paper again. My edge is not square to the sides. I cut it with a scissors every time I cut off prints that I print. So I left it on there, and I went, it'll be fine. I went ahead and printed it. Of course, it was terrible. So I ran an also check. I ran a cleaning cycle, then I ran a second cleaning cycle, and then I printed the whole series. I did 50 little 3x3-inch images of this logo. It was about maybe this much paper, maybe 1.5 yards of paper. The second one came out perfect. Yeah. So what's the verdict? Yeah, I needed to clean it. It was clogged after, I don't know how long it sat there with no use. Yeah, I do the same thing I preach you guys not to do. I got 13 printers to babysit. So, and only so much time. So yeah, I had to do what I tell you guys not to do. And so finally I got it cleared out, and I don't know what the nozzle check looks like yet. I just know that my prints came out perfectly. So again, it will run that cleaning cycle for you automatically. It may not be enough. Okay. It took printing 50 of those. Actually, I stopped the print. I have to admit. Once I saw how bad they were coming out, I stopped the print job, cut it off, retracted the paper back to starting position, ran cleaning cycles twice, and then began to print, crossed my fingers. It was perfect. Then I did the larger one. That was perfect. And now it's sat there for another week. I haven't printed anything on it yet. My fault if I have to do a cleaning cycle again. You see? So hopefully the next time I use it, it'll run its own cleaning cycle like it did for me. I thought that was going to be enough, but it wasn't. So there you go. It took 3 cleaning cycles to get the printer back online. How much ink did I waste? A heck of a lot more ink than I used to create the prints. That makes no sense. That would be like if I drive 5 miles, but I idle for an hour before I drive. I probably waste more gas than I do driving the 5 miles. You see? So you don't want to be wasting paper. You don't want to be wasting ink by not printing. Okay, see what I mean? You will waste ink if you do not print, because then the next attempt to print will be bad. You'll have to run cleaning cycles maybe once or twice. Boom, you've wasted a lot of ink. Yeah, I mean, this is Joe the preacher here, the printer preacher, saying these things, and I do the same thing. Again, but like I said, some of you have 1 printer to take care of. I have 13 of them. So it's not an excuse, not even in the least, but just verification of what will happen if you do not use your printers long enough. Tango says, I do not find paper roll paper for DIN A4 for the P800. Only DIR. I have no idea what those terms mean. I don't know what DIN is. Usually P800 being a 17-inch capacity paper printer, you will find some 13-inch, very, very few papers available in 13-inch roll. Most of them will be 17 and wider. So that may be the reason. I don't know. I know that if I look at Red River here in this country, a lot of the roll material that they have will be more readily available in the 17-inch width than in 13-inch. Now, A4, I think that's what, is that like letter size for us here in the US, or is it supposed to be A5? I'm not sure. Mark Y says, but if you use the printer every day as I do and shut it off at the end of the day, well, you really don't have to shut it off. Don't shut it off anymore. Leave it on. Let it go to sleep. What printer are you using again, Mark? What is your printer, Mark? Let me go back here in the chat, see if I find that information. Nope, I don't find it. Oh, wow. Kurt Jett from Middletown, Ohio, just dropped a $10 super chat. Thank you so much, my friend. Wow, appreciate that. Just filled my 2 sets of cartridges from my Pro-10 thanks to your excellent videos. All right, excellent. What ink are you using? I use on my Pro-10. I'm able at this point to use OEM inks on those cartridges because the PGI 29 cartridges for the Pro-1, I had a chance to hook up with a school, an art school, and they would provide me with all their empty PGI 29s. Well, more often than not, they had about 4, 6, 8, even 12 milliliters of ink left in them. So I aspirated all of those cartridges out, put them all in bottles. So I had a pretty good supply of ink that I was using for my Pro-10. And so, again, and also, boy, I really do appreciate this from a lot of you guys. You guys that do not ever plan to refill or reuse any kind of third-party inks. You guys have been giving me empties that are very valuable, actually. So I got a bunch of Pro-100 cartridges. I got a bunch of actually Pro-1000 cartridges now. Just got another 2 sets the other day from a gentleman who does not refill. And also Pro-10 cartridges. So I'm all set. Here's a proposal for you guys. It's not going to work if I try, okay? But if you're interested in anyone else's but Precisioncolors inks, and you want to know, and this is going to be for only Pro-10 and Pro-100, okay? Because those will be the easiest printers for me to test on, because all the other ones have ink lines. There's no way that I can test one ink set over another ink set without having to waste a lot of internal ink being pushed out. So the Pro-10, piece of cake. Pro-100, piece of cake. Pro-1, no, not at all. Contact whatever seller you are interested in finding out how good Ink Owl, what is it, Octo Ink in Great Britain. I know the guy, but just do it as a third-party person asking. That I would be more than willing to do a comprehensive test, and I could possibly bring them a lot of business. Okay, so if you guys do that, just simple email will take care of that and give them my information. They'll contact me. I have now the empties to be able to run this type of testing, okay, and do it expeditiously and do it extremely well done, okay, because that way, if I need to test another ink set for the Pro-100, I just take out the one that I have now and boom, install the other one, one clean cycle, done. I'm ready to print using that new or different ink set. Simple as that. So something that if you guys want to take that on your own and run with it, because you're the ones that want to know if this ink or that ink is good, okay? Does it stack up against Precisioncolors, signature editions, okay? A lot of the inks are going to be offered in that type of terminology from now on. So something to think about. Again, if I do it, it's just not going. It's going to be rejected. Johnny Boyd says, I hate to admit it, but I have an Epson 2200 that I have never used. I have not even installed ink on it. Online labs are just so cheap and awesome. Maybe one of these days I'll try it out. The Epson 2200, I have had 5 of them, okay? And I used to be able to get them for like 90 bucks on eBay, unused. I mean, or used, but, not used for a long time. And they were able to be brought back to life. They had something really amazing that no other printer of that category offered you. A real working roll adapter. Yes. And at the time, I don't know about now, you might want to look. I used to get them for about $20 And this is a big unit that attaches firmly to the front. It actually electrically connects with the printer, because when you take the paper exit tab tray out, there are some electrical connections there. You connect this roll adapter, then you load your roll. It had to be a 2-inch core type roll, 13-inch wide roll. You feed it, and then you have it extend beyond, and then you just use the roll. The driver had the choice for roll, and so yeah, it worked beautifully. It also had an internal cutter. Wow. I don't know why they never incorporated this on subsequent models after that. The 2200 went away. I slowly sold mine to other folks. It did a great job. Photographic printing with it was extremely slow. The maximum resolution was not as high as today's printers, but it produced great results. I think it only used 7 colors, and I may have like a video or two specifically about the 2200. If you guys might want to search for that. And I'll show you what, then you'll be able to see what I have done with it. I know that I also had a very, very early video demonstrating that roll adapter. Gosh, now you got me thinking. Let's see if that's even available nowadays. Man, that was really awesome. I may still have one of those sitting here. I no longer have any 2200s. EPSON 2200 roll adapter. Here it is. Wow. Boy, things have changed. $109. I'm telling you, I used to get these for 14 bucks, 15 bucks, maybe 20 at max. Let me show you what that looks like. Here it is. So you got the roll adapters. You see them? Those 2 round things that clipped in the back. This is the same type that the any subsequent 13-inch EPSON printer had, and they attach to the back. But those printers, like for example, the R3000, the 2880, the 2400, the R2000, P600, P3, P400, all of those have this available. But the driver has no option for roll printing. So big deal. Every time you print it, you had to retract the paper and then cut it yourself. There was no way to advance the paper and then cut it beyond the printer tray. Not really. Totally useless adapter to have for your printer. You couldn't really use it. But with this roll adapter, that thing was awesome, because it immediately, that driver had that option. So you can see right here, the big thing diagonally right down the middle, that is the cutter mechanism and advance mechanism. Wow, man. Yeah, I am shocked. I used to get these things for like $14. Amazing. Yeah. I found that I really didn't need them anymore. Don't ask me why, but I did do a lot of printing on that printer. I actually made lots of what you call it, where you collages. So I have some software that allows you to do some collages using Photoshop type templates, and I would make them like 13 by 25 or something like that and print them on that printer. It was awesome. And then I had that sucker set up on my rack system on the top, and just let that paper just cascade. It had a little basket that you can catch the paper, but you can only relatively, catch maybe a couple of feet or 3 feet of paper. But I was doing like maybe 10 feet worth of print. So you print something and then send the next one and then send the next job and just don't stop. Keep on printing. And yeah, it was great. And the 2200, easy to refill. Even the original OEM cartridges were refillable, as long as you knew how to refill them. And I have an old video. One of my most successful videos was about how to refill the TI or TO34, I think is the code for the cartridges. Epson immediately changed that, and you could no longer do that. Crazy. Wow, you really took me back in time, my friend Mark. Wow, okay. Erman's Banger. I use InkStation in Australia. Seems okay. Wish I could get Precision inks here, but the cost. I may as well buy OEM. Yeah, that's the problem. Tango came back and says DIN equals A4 or 8 by 11.6 inches. Okay. So you're talking about rolls in that width of 8 inches wide? That's going to be very, very difficult. Even here. Again, 13 inch, I can barely get that. So the 2200 was popular with screen printers back then for producing film positives. Yes. Johnny says that it came with that. So your printer has the roll adapter? Oh, man. What are you waiting for? I'm serious. Begin to print with it. Set that sucker up. But make sure, because again, do as I say, not as I do. You're going to have that printer busy. Okay? And so make sure that if you are a photographer, you're getting back into photography whatsoever, make sure you prepare a bunch of panoramas. Yeah. Get them ready to print so you always have work. And you can keep that paper loaded on the printer. Oh man, I wish I had that printer. I recently got rid of my last one and I did have it with the roll adapter. Yeah, the video that I did way back before I got rid of it, I just decided to like revive that printer, at least emotionally speaking. And I did my last video on it, and wow, that was a hard decision for me to sell it to someone. But someone came all the way from Philadelphia. They drove here, and they bought it among other printers that I had as well. Gee whiz. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I did a printer comparison between the Pro 100, again, profile. This is the old inks, by the way, the old PC inks for the Pro 100. And I believe at that time I had the Pro 1 sitting on my table. That used to be our dining room table, by the way. And I did a direct comparison between the Pro 100 and the Pro 1. Basically, what I was looking for was gloss. Okay, so the Pro 1 full gloss application, Chrome Optimizer application. The Pro 100, again, doesn't have it, doesn't need it. So, excuse me, and both were profile. In other words, I had custom profiles for Pro Luster for the Pro 1 using whatever inks I was using back then. I think I never used anything but OEM on those two printers at that time. No, Pro 100 was with PC and the Pro 1 was with OEM. And I did a comparison. Let me see if I can load this without going through the ads 2.0 departments here. I'm gonna let that run.
Long-awaited version 2 of the product.
I'm gonna cut the audio. And when I'm ready to show you guys, I'll go ahead and I'll move the what you call it over to that section, and you can see the differences between the two. So the collage that I made was basically just one large collage of representative images. I believe one was very saturated and one was kind of more subtle, and then one was monochrome and so forth. And just basically, trying to figure out, okay, which is the best, right? So the best usually should have been OEM, right? So the Pro 1 was using OEM, and my Pro 100 using dye inks from PC, which were not the improved inks, just the original ones. But the magic came in the profiling of the paper that I was using for both of these printers. So I'm going to go ahead and skip this ad. I think it's enough time. Let me see if I can fast forward. Okay. So here you go. I think this will be enough of a display. So I'm not going to go ahead and play any of this. But this is, I don't know which is which. I would have to actually listen to it, and they will not like it. So, oh, I'm sorry. Look at that. The Pro 1000, Pro 10, and the Pro 100. Not the Pro 1. I was totally wrong. But basically, a super duper printer, a medium good printer, and again, a simple Pro 100, which is also a good printer. Let me see if I can just go ahead and play some of this.
But when you really look at it, you know, it's so minimal that, you know, it can be easily forgotten. And remember, this image is extremely demanding. So what can I say? This one is gorgeous. And so is the Pro 1000. Uh-oh, let's go over to these really colorful images here and see what we can find that we can say, oh, the Pro 100 stinks.
Okay,
Let's
so I believe the Pro
guy
100, I believe this is the Pro 100. I can read it. And the Pro 1000 is down here. I'll just stop right here. Take a look. Look at that. I mean, that is amazing. Where the Pro 1000 will come into play is this image right here with those blues. Okay, let's see if we can see any differences.
Wall there. Again, Pro 100 is a little bit deeper in overall density. That is all. The color is about the same, pretty much matching, if you ask me. Let's look at the silhouette of the man. There's Venus. Venus, there's the moon. Venus, there's the moon.
Wow. At least in video, you really do not see a huge difference in rendition. And this is where the Pro 1000 should have excelled. Okay? So yeah, there you go. $1,300 and $100 net if you get a rebate. The ones that I purchased were about $100 to $150 each. I have 3 of them, 1 in use and then 2 in box still waiting. So there you go. That kind of gives you a good idea if you are really considering one or the other. Is it really that much of a difference? And again, those images were very demanding. Those are not, you know, just regular mild images. Those are pretty strong images. You should have been able to see a pretty good difference between the two printers' output. But keep in mind that the Pro 1000 OEM, Pro 10, I believe at this point, I may be using OEM or Precisioncolors inks. I'm not entirely sure. This video is from 2017, so, you know, a bit old. But anyway, you can go back and look at all those old videos and see some really interesting stuff. All my comparisons that I did years ago. Go back and check those out. Go back and check those out. Check the print show and tell series. You see all my work. Everything that I have done is in print form, okay? And I have it all put away right now. But anyway, I did videos basically displaying about 20 to 25 prints in each video, and I went and told you what printers were used, what inks were used, what papers were used. If I did something special to the image, I went ahead and told you that. Yeah, so it's really interesting to be able to see that. I had 1,000 likes on that one and 40 thumbs down on it. You know, why? Some people just have a hobby of doing that. And again, you know, I watch it and I'm my biggest critic. So I'm like, what did I say to deserve a thumbs down? I'm not sure. Maybe somebody got mad at it, what I said about a specific printer. I don't know. Maybe yes, maybe no. Anyway, so let's see what else we got here. Ermans said, I thought the Pro 1000 and Pro 10 were virtually identical outputs, and the Pro 100 has some banding in the blues and it's very slight magenta cast in mono. Yeah. Are you referring to that actual video? I would have to go back and replay the whole thing. And again, you know, unless you see it in person, the video kind of hides some of the detail. Yeah, Pro 1000, Pro 10. The Pro 10 does not have the same ink set as the Pro 1000. Pro 1000 has a relatively different ink set than the Pro 10. All of the inks are not completely interchangeable. Pro 10 has different grays. The Pro 1000 has different grays as well. Pro 1 has 3 grays. The dark gray is equivalent to Pro 10 regular gray in density. So you can actually interchange those two and you will not have any problems. The Pro 1 has a middle gray and then a light gray. That the middle gray has there's no other printer out there in the Canon line that uses that particular shade of gray. Yeah, and the Pro 100, again, are you referring to the actual video? I don't remember if I said anything about bending. I'll have to go back and look at that entire video and see if I indeed saw some of that. I may have, you never know. Chris Williams says, you get thumbs down because you exist, Jose. Yeah, that's what happens. People who criticize rarely create. That's true. Andrew Montovani II, he's here from the Bronx. Watch your videos, each one several times. No problems obtaining neutral prints. Great black and whites for my Pro 10, Pro 100. Thanks for your help. Great. That's it. That, I don't want to say if Andrew can do it, anyone can do it, because, that would not be nice, but it's easy. It really is easy. Once you attack it, a very, consistent, specific way, in other words. I don't want to go back and just rehash what you need to do when you get a new printer, but, you can go back and look at those videos. I have a systematic way of setting everything up. And then once you're set up, that's it. You're done. From that point on, anything that looks wrong after the print comes out of the printer, assuming, of course, that the printer is working correctly, nozzles are clear. Anything that doesn't quite look right, and you use a proper paper with the correct ICC profile, and then it doesn't match your monitor or it just looks odd, that's related to something else, not the printer, okay? So, consistency. I have a lot of papers, but I really only use about 3 total. I don't really go around hopping from paper type to paper type. If I do a review on a paper, I'll stick to that paper. Then I will compare it to something common like Canon Pro 100 or Epson Photo Paper Pro Luster or something like that. Something very common. And then I will make a decision, whether this new paper deserves a thumbs up or a thumbs sideways or totally down. It depends. And again, what I like, someone else doesn't like. That's why I get the thumbs down, right? And what I don't like, someone else likes. So it's so subjective that when someone asks me, Jose, what printer do you suggest I buy? What paper should I be using for my images? I don't know. No one knows. I can suggest to you a printer if you tell me what you're trying to achieve, what sort of material you want to print on, okay? What size will be your maximum? How much room do you have? How much you're willing to spend? All of that. All of these printers are good. There isn't one single printer I mentioned earlier. All those numbers that I threw out. All those printers are good. Even the old 2200 is good. Yeah, they're great printers. The technology that was available even way back then was incredible. After all of those years, we're getting to the point where it just takes an immense amount of research and development just to increase quality a little bit. Yeah, point of, what is that? No returns. Yeah. So you spend, in the early days, you spend a certain amount and you gain a lot. But now we're getting to the point where camera lenses really cannot resolve anymore any higher resolution. I mean, it's only so much that optics can provide you. Even in electron microscopy, the smallest object you can actually resolve is as wave, the width of the ultraviolet wave. Yeah, that's what it, and you're using electrons. So again, so once you reach that threshold, that's it. You cannot go any further. So printers are getting that way. I mean, if they had a printer with 20 colors, imagine, basic yellow, orange, red, green, cyan. Oh, forget about red. I forgot about red, magenta, cyan, blue, violet, and then blacks. Various shades of black. Yeah. Imagine if you had a printhead with 20 channels, 20 dedicated proprietary inks. Your gamut would be larger than what your monitor can display. Can anybody build a printer like that? I don't know. That would be huge. And yeah, of course it's possible. Of course you can do it. But who would want to spend, $20,000, $30,000 for a printer? Not many of us. Oh, Erman says, I bought that Pro-10 because of that video. Okay. I'm going to go back and look at it. I am going to go back and look at it. That may have been the actual result. Again, it's been a while. I forget. So, and I know I have those prints still stacked up under my table. So I can go back and re-establish that. And it may have been, my Pro-100 may have been, maybe needing head alignment. I should have covered all that prior to my testing, but maybe I did not. And it could be that. And also, for whatever the reason, it's very mysterious. No one can really pinpoint why. But if any banding occurs and your head is properly aligned and there are no missing nozzles, banding will always occur on skies. Anything that has a very, very slow transitional effect. I don't know why. It could be pink, but it doesn't occur on pink. It only occurs on skies. Really strange. Chris Williams. Ha ha ha. What paper should I use for my images? Don't know. No one knows. Fabulous, Jose. Yeah, it's true. I'll tell you what papers you should not use for some images. Metallic papers for baby shots of your newborn. Those that style of baby photographer. My friend in Australia does this expertly, where they cocoon a little baby and they basically tire the baby to the point where it just falls asleep on its own, even on a studio setup. And they cocoon the baby, and it's really cute. Maybe the baby's coming out of a big snail shell, or so, some ridiculous types of setting up. Don't use metallic paper for that type of portraiture. It won't work. Okay. Don't use a beautiful texture art paper for shots of a rusty hunk of a car in a junkyard. That would be great for a metallic paper. Don't print a seascape, mostly cool colors, on a warm base paper. That would not work. Don't print a highly detailed image on a coarse surface type watercolor paper. That really won't work very well. Print your sunsets on a warm base paper. Print your snowscapes, your shots of snow-capped mountains with a bluish cast. Print them on a white, pure, cold base paper. You see? I mean, there's going to be some obvious choices as to what paper goes well with what image, but it's not really that clear cut. It's not cut and dry. I mean, it's still up to you. You just need to, what I like to do is I print a collage of many types of images onto one sample sheet of that particular paper and just kind of look and see what works with what. And then if I need to, I'll pick that one image and I'll print it on a sheet of that particular paper, and I'll show it to my wife. That's what I will do. Show it to my wife. She will immediately cut it down, or, hey, that looks really great. That's a great combination. Or she'll tell me, oh, that sucks. Oh, that clear cut. Yeah. It's either this, not this, either that or that. And I go back down, I stick my tail between my legs, and I go back and try something else. She's always right. Okay. She's always right. And so, again, the same thing with a printer. Printer's more mechanical. Printer's more to what you need, because most printers will provide great results, period. So you have to go back and examine, what do I want to do? What do I want to create? What do I want to reach, not just a year from now or 6 months from now, but maybe 5 years from now? That printer will still be working fine if you take good care of it. So what do I want to achieve? So here's what I always say. Oh, I don't need anything larger than 13 by 9. Oh, baloney. Oh, yes, you will. The minute I show you a big image, you're going to want it. You're going to want to create it. So you might want to consider, if you can afford it, something in the next category bigger. If 17 by something is all you ever think you're going to ever do, consider a 24-inch printer. If I had the room, absolutely. Because at some point, you're going to want to do one of those. And sure, you can contract that out to a lab if it's just a once in a lifetime type thing. But if all of a sudden that sparks a little flame under you, and that's what you want to do from now on, you'll be glad you upgraded to that slightly larger, always one size larger than what you think will be your minimum, or your maximum, I should say, your maximum size. That way you're covered. Or you'll end up like me with 13 printers, always trying to get the next printer. And again, it's lucky me that I have a channel such as this that I can use all those printers on to just demonstrate things and answer questions about a type of printer. Oh, I have one that's basically the same thing. I'll go ahead and test it on that printer, and I'll give you a call back or an email back and tell you what my results were. I mean, I have people who wanted to know how a certain image would print on this printer. It prints terrible on mine. I'm using the same inks that you have. Send me the image. Just send me a small version of it. Don't send me the full. I don't want your image. I'm going to delete it the minute I'm done with it. So send me the image via email. If it fits on my email, that's 20 megabyte maximum, I believe. Send it to me. I will print it on my printer with whatever paper you want me to print it on. And I will tell you, okay, it's your image. Or, my printer produces a great result. It's your printer. You see what I mean? So I'm able to do that because I have 13 printers. And that's the biggest excuse to have this large an army, if you will, of printers. Gives you the ability to test many things. Tango says it's really entertaining, and I love how Jose is caring for everyone asking here. Thank you. Thank you. And people, don't forget to spend some small money for his helpings. Aw. Thank you so much. Mump Guy. I love that name. There's a lot of people here that are new. My gosh, what's happening? What is happening? Let me see how many we got. I neglected to look. 31. All right. I don't know how many we had earlier, but right now we have 32. Just now, 32 and 26 likes. Awesome. All right. Mump Guy says, I print photos with my AIO all in one, and I'm satisfied. However, I want to print larger than 8 by 10. Yeah. Is the Pro-100 a logical choice? Absolutely. If you live in the U.S. and you buy it through a authorized seller, then you can then qualify for the Canon rebate. And simply put, many times, I mean, as much, I don't know about, maybe Cyber Monday might be a good time. But, during the holidays, they'll have all these sales as well. You got to pay up front about $350 for the printer. They send you, after you provide them with the documentation of the box, whatever you call that little barcode, and your receipt, copy of your receipt and all of that, you send it to them, and they will give you the rebate, which is a $250 Visa card. And you use that card for whatever you wish. And you also get a box of 13 by 19, usually Pro Luster or maybe semi-gloss. That's $49, $49.99. So call it $50. And that means that you're 350 minus 250, that's 100 net, minus 50 for the paper. That's $50 net you paid for that printer. The ink alone is $115 for a set. So immediately you're going to start thinking ahead. I'm going to be using that printer with refilled cartridges. You will have to use your original cartridges, or you buy a set of pre-modified, already flushed expertly with the good clips and the good plugs from my friend Rick Johnson. I have a link on all my videos. eBay store, Rick Johnson. Check to see if he even has any available. He is selling them out as fast as, you can snap your finger. You take that full set, you refill that full set, reset it, of course, first, and refill that full set. Have it on standby. As each original cartridge runs empty or low, whatever you choose to do, that's up to you. You remove it and you replace it with one of those filled cartridges with, say, PCSE ink. And then you take that one you removed, you modify it yourself. Learn to do this. I have videos that cover the whole operation. And then you can flush it if you want to, or once you modify it, reset it, top it off with PC inks. No problem whatsoever. The only one that you will have problems is the yellow one. So what you do is you just let it run until it's declared empty, modify it, and instead of flushing it with water, you're going to flush it. Again, I have videos, CLI-42 modification playlist. It's all there. Watch the whole series, okay? Let the ads run, please. Watch the whole, especially now in the holidays. These companies are putting tons of money into ads for YouTube. And so that's how small channels like me can survive. So let the ads run, but watch the whole series. CLI-42 modification playlist. Takes you to every step you need to perform. Now, use Windex. Go to your local supermarket or CVS or whatever and buy Windex with ammonia D. Big syringe. Again, plain tip syringe will fit right into the plug. This is the plug that we have removed. Right in there. Just go ahead, insert the syringe, and pump in that blue Windex. All of the yellow ink will come out. Pump it again. It's going to take you about 50 cents or a dollar's worth of Windex. Go to the dollar store and buy it. You can get it there as well. And go ahead and flush that out. Let it sit for about an hour. And then using fresh water on that same syringe, continue pumping until it looks like this. Okay? And then push out all the water with the same syringe, just pumping air into it. I actually blow into it and let the water come out. You can let it just sit there next to an air vent or something for a few days. You still have the other cartridge already filled, the one you bought from eBay, remember, so you're good. Let this sit for a few days and then weigh it to make sure that it's about under 14 grams, okay, about 13 and a half, for 13 and a quarter and 3/4 grams, okay. That means that it's dry enough for you to refill. That cartridge now is safe for you to refill, okay. not before. You have to flush out that yellow ink. That yellow ink, original ink, is a special formulation by Canon. They changed the formulation completely for the Pro 100. Yellow is the weakest point of the whole ink set. It's the one that would fade quickest. So they have reformulated the ink. That's why that ink can last 100. Those prints can last 100 years. Without that yellow ink, without that new black. The new black doesn't have problems. The yellow ink cannot be mixed with any third-party dye ink. Okay? It will cause a gelling reaction. We call it yellow jello. Okay? It will clog your yellow channel. If you have such an accident like I did, I was the first one to discover this reaction, by the way, you can clean it with ammonia type Windex. I got that done and I saved my print head. It would have obliterated that channel. You know, if I had continued printing, no ink flowing through the channel means overheating. Overheating means that channel is destroyed. So that's it. Then from that point on, one cartridge at a time, switch over with the modified filled one with PC ink. When all 8 are done, that means now you have all your original OEMs either modified, refilled, or the yellow one modified, flushed, dried, and refilled. Now from that point on, now you have 2 sets. Follow this. Follow me here. You have 2 sets. Okay, one in the printer at various levels, and one outside the printer, filled and reset. Sitting around waiting for the boss to say, hey, put me to work. So now and only now that you have 2 full sets, when one of them reaches low, remove all 8, put the clips on them, and put this set back in there. That's like starting completely fresh again. Every time you do this. Why? Because ink colors are used at different rates. And you always have inks at all kinds of different levels. You get to the point with enough cartridges, like 8 of them, you get to the point where if you print often enough or not, you're still going to be running cleaning cycles. Your Canon will do this. Okay, that's what it's going to do for you or against you. It's going to run cleaning cycles. You're going to be changing an individual cartridge quite often. And every time you do that, you physically remove a cartridge and replace it with another one. Or even if you just replace the same one, when you close the lid, it runs a global purge, meaning ink from all 8 cartridges will be sucked into the printhead and out the printhead, wasting money. Okay, so you want to diminish the number of these purges. Remember, they will occur. If you print enough, you will be exchanging a cartridge or 2, maybe every week. That's how much the different levels will be. So why do you want to do that? If you just, one reaches low, take the whole set off, regardless of what the other levels are at. Put them aside. Put the brand new, fully filled set in there. You're starting from fresh. You got to wait another month before one of them reaches low. See? Rather than several times a week, twice a week maybe, once a week, instead of once every 2 months. Maybe once a month, depending on how often you print. That's all that's saying, So you will reduce your purge cycles by a factor of what? 8. It's always the factor of the number of cartridges your printer uses. 8 purges within 2 months or 1 purge every 2 months. Yes. So that's why you do that. That is the routine you will adopt once you have established yourself with 2 sets of cartridges. Okay? Whether you bought them already pre-modified and ready to use, and you sold your original 8, because Rick will get them for you as well. Whichever way, you can achieve 2 sets of cartridges. And this is for the Pro 100, okay? The same thing goes for the Pro 10, but it's more important for the Pro 100. And you want to go too low. You want to go too low. Low means this. And also, before I get done tonight, we have about another 15 minutes. I want to tell you why you should never buy these compatible cartridges or refillable cartridges. They're all over the place for the Pro 100. Avoid them like the plague, okay? Do not ever go that route. Go the correct way, which is utilizing your original cartridges. All right, so the original cartridge looks simple to you, but it really is not. Up here, you cannot see that. There is a serpentine vent. There are little tiny dividers up here, and you got to backlight this to be able to see it. Those are not found on compatible cartridges. Okay, they're very cheap. The sponge is composed of 2 layers of a specific density fiber. We call it a sponge, but it really is just fiber material. Okay, if I was to dissect this cartridge apart, I would separate the upper part and the lower part. It would be 2 rectangles of fiber. The upper one is low density, the lower one is high density. Okay, underneath, there's a little channel, a little trough, if you will, where ink from this side can pass and enter through. At the bottom of this chamber is a prism. Okay, that prism's job is to determine when there's no ink in this chamber. Okay, and the low warning is then triggered. So there is a light beam being shined throughout the printing operation of your printer 100% of the time. And that light passes through that prism, enters liquid, and the light beam stays in one direction. It does not change angle. The minute that your ink levels drop, and now that prism is exposed to air, and air has a different diffraction index, that beam will be deflected in a different angle. It is now declared as low. Okay? Now, this side, and people complain, oh, my cartridge still has, a lot of ink on the sponge. Can I just continue printing? Why? Okay, why? So you can squeeze out another print. Here's what you should not, especially if you're refilling. If you're not refilling, by all means, print until it's empty, until it's declared empty. You'll still have 3 milliliters of ink here. You'll still be throwing away 3 milliliters of ink, period. That's the way it is. Okay, no way to avoid that. You have to have ink left over to eliminate any danger. If you're just using OEM constantly, never refill. You have to eliminate any danger of the printhead ever being starved of liquid. And liquid is what keeps the resistors in that channel cool to operating temperatures. The minute you diminish the ink flow, you increase the operating temperature. You reach a certain threshold, and that will begin to burn. The ink will literally begin to burn. Okay? Now, so what do? That's why you wait until this is just low. When it's low, that means that the prism just was exposed to air. Stop printing. Don't send another job to the printer. Just cancel. If you had it queued up, cancel it. You can resend it later. Remove the whole set. Now, by removing the set when it's still, one of them is low, that means that what? What does that mean? Think. Ink is constantly replenishing the sponge as ink is being drawn out of the cartridge. So the saturation level is always being maintained. Okay. Also, the serpentine vent is providing venting to this chamber. Okay, as well as this sponge. But because you have constant flow of ink, always meeting the demand of whatever print job you're doing through your printer, that ink saturation is always kept pretty much at a constant level. Okay, when you reach empty here and you get that low warning, guess what? You no longer have any ink to replenish the sponge. So if you continue to print, you will be removing ink from the sponge, and what replaces it? Air. That's the last thing you want. If you're not refilling, it doesn't matter. But if you're refilling, you never want air to get entrapped between those fibers. You will never push it out. Never. Because this is not a pressurized system. So you can refill it and you will never push out the air. As you continue to do this over and over and over again, you'll actually be loading less and less and less ink into that complete compartment. We call it cartridge. It starts off with a full capacity of 13 milliliters. You might end up only being able to load 10 if you have enough air trapped in that sponge. So always low or just before low. You can see your ink levels in your driver. Okay. So once it reaches that almost low condition, take them all out, put a new set in there. And that way your sponge is still saturated. All you got to do, if you have a little bit of ink here, you're good to go. Just top it off. That's it. Top it off and let it sit. Put the clip back on it and let it sit until you need it the next time. The whole science is about making sure your ink never loses its saturation. And it will only do that not because you're sending prints with a lot of black in it, a lot of dark tones. No, you will be able to continue to refill that sponge with ink, replenish it. But the moment there's no more ink to replenish that sponge with, air gets in. Okay, you don't want that. You don't want that at all. Guess where the air gets in? Through here. At the point where you don't want air, right at the bottom. Okay, so just above the prism. I don't even wait for the low warning anymore. I remove the whole set. My sponges, after I think I've done about maybe 30 to 40 refills on one set of cartridges. And my sponges still look like they did when they were new. Fully saturated. That's the trick. I always say, if you're going to do this, you're not supposed to do this. You're not. You're not supposed to do this ever. But if you're going to do it the right way. Get away with it. Okay. You have your cake and eat it too. This is the only time you'll be able to do that. You'll be able to print cheap, print great images. Oh my God. I keep digging up over here. Great images. And at pennies per print. Your only cost will be paper. And if you want a longer life, spray those surfaces of those prints. You'll be good to go. Frame them on under glass. It's only ProLuster paper. Who cares if glass changes the look? It's not a texture paper. So spray them. Boy, you will 10 times the longevity then. Increase the longevity. So you got away with printing super cheap and buy a coat, just a coat of UV spray. And now you've increased the print life by factor of 10. Yeah, you did have your cake and eat it too. You did. So again, this is the trick. This is the secret for successful refilling. Okay. Never let the cartridge go beyond low. Don't try to squeeze out another print. Okay. Always keep that sponge saturated. Top it off before it needs to be topped off. Okay. That's the secret. If you do that, I guarantee you'll have a super happy refilling life. Okay. And you'll be laughing all the way to the bank with the money you're saving. Okay. And still enjoy printing, because if you're not doing it for a business, you're just doing it for fun. Imagine the pleasure you will get by holding a print in your hands of an image that you shot, you edited, and you artistically changed to a specific look. And your printer is able to reproduce that look on paper. And now you have it in your hands. Like this. This is my painterly rendition of Annapolis, Maryland, a cafe outside, that I will gladly offer you. As you can see right here, it is signed. It is number 2 of 100. I sold one already. I got one more. This is done on the Pro-1000. I treat it like it's sterile. And $40, including shipping, anywhere in the U.S. All you got to do is go to my PayPal and send me the money. Make sure that you annotate what that is for. Great Christmas present. It's a 12 by 18. You can buy a frame right at Michael's for it immediately, and you can frame it. And it is one of a type No one else has this image. This is my image that I created myself, and I use a special method to create that look. Printed on watercolor paper from Canson. It has been sprayed front and back and printed with full OEM inks, by the way. So it will last longer than you. So consider doing that if you want to. I will have this available until Christmas time. So all you got to do again is go to that PayPal button on basically my main channel page, and just go ahead and send the money. Tell me what it is for. Of course, I'll know what it is for, but you need to send me your address, and it has to be in the U.S. All right, that is it. I think for now we are almost at the 3-hour mark. Let me see what else we got here. Chris Williams, $2, £2. No, €2. Is that euro or a pound? I don't know. I think so. Yeah. Thank you so much, man. I'm blown away. Thank you. You guys are really showing your love today. Let's see what else we got here. Chris Williams also asked, True, as soon as you see a large printed image, you want a printer that can achieve it. Yeah, absolutely. Drone Dogs says, got any of your Jimmy H images you can show? No, man, that was back in San Francisco days. I think I may have those in some folders. And I've been agonizing because my wife wanted me to get a film scanner. And I think she was primarily interested in just doing all our slides. I did a lot of Ektachrome and Kodachrome back in the days. And I thought, well, shoot, I can go back and dig up the folders, my negative files. And I couldn't find them. So I sort of started to panic because I also have a lot of stuff from my overseas assignments when I was in Korea, Central America, that sort of thing. As well as Europe. I mean, I never worked digitally when I was in the military. I got out in '89 and we didn't have digital anything yet. So I have to go back and redig and see. I also got to see Janis Joplin, believe it or not. And Santana. Boy, those were the days. This was when they weren't even big names yet in the music business. Yeah. Wow. The only thing is, if you were there, just smelling the local air, you know what I mean. One of those types of venues. Okay, so let's see. Fabulous about replacing all the cartridges to minimize purges. No, that is not for all printers. Stationary cart printers, no, one at a time. There's no need to do that. You have to live with anything. But stationary cartridge printers, like any EPSON stationary cartridge printer or Canon, they do not run any kind of purge cycle. They're already primed. Okay, so you just replace one at a time. You will not be subject to that so-called domino effect. That's what we call it, where you create a constant need to change one or two cartridges because there's always going to be one that reaches low. And what happens when you change one, then it runs that purge cycle. Now that one is full, but the one that was near low now is low, and you change that one, and the same thing. One that was above, couple of notches above low, is almost gonna be low within a couple of days. So you see what I mean? Domino effect. That's what we call it. It's always going to be one cartridge that's going to require changes. So if you do them all at once, just like when you set up your printer initially, it seemed like you could print for a long time before you needed to change one cartridge. So that's what you're trying to achieve. And it's only for cartridges that ride on top of the printhead. Okay, so different categories for that. The P400, not the P600. P600 stationary cartridges. P400, they ride on the printhead. You can do that with that printer. The Pro-100, they ride on top of the printhead. Yes, the Pro-10, they ride on top of the printhead. The Pro 1, no. The Pro 1 is stationary. Pro 1000, no, stationary. You see? So stationary cartridge printers, no need to adopt that type of system. It's not necessary. In fact, you can't really do it. It'll just be on the contrary. Okay? You'll be wasting a lot of ink. Spray them with what? Spray them with a print protector, a UV print protector. I have lots of those in my affiliate page for Amazon. Check them out. HALIMUN print, HALIMUN protectant spray. Let me just go there and look. I gotta go back and grab my link. Let me see if I have it here. It always asks me to re-enter my password. Okie doke. So let me show you what those look like to you. We'll scroll down. And I'm sure there are others. Here it is. Don't buy these. I have them there. This is basically for charcoal drawings, that type of thing. But here are the ones you want. It's not cheap. Two cans for $40. And Desert Varnish is the other one that I love. It's by Moab. And there's another one that I have here, but I didn't put it down because it sort of adds a bit of a yellowish cast. This one is not available on Prime here. This one is. So this one you can get like in 2 days, whereas this will take maybe a week. Let me see if I have any others listed here. As you can see, I have, oh, here's what is it called again? The Perfection V800. And it's almost $800. This is an excellent negative scanner right there. Display hood, yes. And the BenQ monitor. I have the cartridges, waste cartridges for the Pro 1000. I have papers, I have inks, I have syringes, I have ink sets from Inkowl. I have watercolor paper that I print on. That's the same paper that I just showed you. Roto trimmers. I have them all here. Here it is. This is the other really good spray, Premier Art. Again, it works really well. And what their job is to seal your surface of the print. In other words, seal the coating. And you want to do that because of something like this paper here. This is your cheap, low-cost Canon Pro Luster. When this comes out of the printer, it's dry, basically. How is that possible? Whereas old-fashioned swellable surface papers take forever to dry. Well, these have a porous surface coating. And so the ink that goes into those pores can just basically evaporate pretty much instantly. Okay. And because of that porous coating, ozone can enter immediately. Has instant access to your dyes, especially on dye printers like the Pro 100 using PC inks. Okay, those dyes are susceptible to ozone. Ozone will oxidize them. And so what you want to do is you want to seal the surface with something that will protect it. With the old papers, I don't have any here right now. The old papers, the actual surface of the coating itself would slightly melt because it was basically gelatin based. And so it would slightly melt, the ink would enter, it was dye ink back in those days. And then once it dried, it would encapsulate the ink and it would be protected against ozone. It would not fade. It would last a long time. Even the very low quality inks of the past would tend to last a long time. Not this. This paper will fade. If I put it out, bright sunlight and exposure to ozone, it will fade. So what I need to do is spray these with any one of those 3 sprays. That will seal the surface. Ozone cannot get in. The back is resin coated anyway, so it cannot enter. Okay. Whereas this one has to be sprayed front and back. So the back is fiber based. There's no resin coating anywhere. There's no OBAs. This is going to last forever. Pigment inks from the Pro-1000, and it's been sprayed 2 coats on either side, front and back. So that will make it last forever. And so you can then mount that any way you want to, and it will be protected. So that does not have a micropolar surface. The ink just goes into the coating. It's got a certain coating on it, but it's really for watercolor painting. And so it has to be protected, otherwise it will fade. Now, watercolor paints seem to last quite a bit, don't they? But they cannot be exposed to light too much. I don't think they react too much to ozone, because watercolor paints are really pigments, okay? So they will not react like a transparent dye, aniline dye would react, or a more organic dyes like they tend to use for the cheaper third-party inks. So protection is everything. You can coat those prints with a spray and they will last a very, very long time. Simple as that. Let me see what else we got. We're just getting started here. Gosh, got another 3 hours to go? No, I don't think we'll stay on that late. There's a lot of stuff to discuss here, but I'm going to just leave that for another time. So we're going to go ahead and close these. Let's see what we need to do here. Any housekeeping we need to do here? We're still at 27 people here. And so that's awesome. So yeah, so he says, does it apply to the XP 15000? Actually, not that particular printer. I'll tell you why. There's no third-party support for that printer. Are you using anything other than OEM for that printer? As it regards to purging, I mean, yeah. Does the XP, do you own the XP 15000 right now? Or not yet? Okay. Here's the thing. No third-party support for it. So get ready to buy only OEM inks. Okay. And if that's the case, you don't worry about purging. You use it. Okay. And again, if the cartridge is right on the printhead, it will run a purge cycle every time you change one cartridge. Yeah, that's why I talked to Precisioncolors, and they don't have any window of time when there might be a option for third-party source. They may come up with a single-use chip, and you will have to use they'll probably come up with a refillable cartridge for it. You'll have to replace the chip every single time with a new one. Not a very good choice at this point. If you want to play around with third-party products, the 15000 is not the printer for you. Oh, Chris wants to know, oh my word, how did you become so knowledgeable? I've been doing photography since I was 11, non-stop. I did it in the Army 22 years. I did it in the medical field for 24 years after that, and I haven't not stopped. And I started messing around with printing. Well, I've been printing since I was 11 in the darkroom, and I did it in every level in the military. I was the guy in charge with making sure that President Reagan's skin tones were correctly rendered. This is in the wet lab, okay? So I work for the Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe, which is the head of NATO in Belgium. I worked there at that particular lab as well. And so when I came back, I went to the Army Audiovisual Center, which is the big Army laboratory at the Pentagon. And we did all of the functions for the presidents and all of the functions for the Arlington Cemetery in Virginia. So worked in the photo lab, the color lab at that point. I did nothing but color printing in Belgium. So I learned everything about it. And so once we got to the point where we became digital, that's when I began to explore that aspect of photography. And I just learning. That's the only way you can, improve. And so at first it was difficult because I was being stubborn and I wasn't listening to people who knew better than me. I'm not saying that I know better than anyone. I'm just saying that I was very stubborn. And so my learning curve and process was very slow during those first 2 years. This is back in like 2000. Okay. That's when I got my first printer. And remember the big scare with the 2YK or 2KY or whatever it's called. 2YK. Yeah. People thought that the internet was going to die. The computers was going to die and all of that. Yeah. No. So I started doing it back in actually like 89 going into the year 2000. And how did I become a channel owner? Well, 2009, somebody said to me, hey, why don't you start doing some videos? Put them on YouTube. I said, what is YouTube? I didn't know what it was. Looked it up. I thought it was kind of cool. Hey, they allow you to upload videos for free and they all stay there forever. Yeah. And about maybe in 17, I finally qualified to be monetized. And so that's where I am now. And so things have gotten up and down. I mean, it's been good, it's been bad. And right now, my love is mostly trying to help people out. So that's what I'm doing this for. It's not so much for monetary gain because it's really, that's not really there. Okay. But you know what I mean. So this is what I enjoy doing. I enjoy passing the time with you guys and helping anyone that I can help. And one of these days, one of my big dreams and goals is to hold local seminars. And if I get really good at this, then I could go to larger cities and then have people come over, pay a fee, and spend a weekend with me. That would involve, you would have to get a hotel room and all that, traveling, all of that. But I would have like 2-day workshop. That would be the dream come true for me. I don't know how that would affect the family, but yeah, that would be awesome. And maybe I can only do it like once a year or twice a year because I'm getting old. I'm not as agile as I used to be. So, I have to consider that aspect of it as well. So anyway, I think that's about it. Let's go ahead and see who else is here. And I figured out how to finally use this new user interface. So there's a little button right here. I'll show you what that looks like. It's a little red button right here that says end stream. You see that? I have to turn off my stream from OBS, which is my broadcasting. That looks horrible. Don't worry about it. OBS is my broadcasting software. So I would have to turn it off here and then turn it off here. And that would be the end of that. Whereas before I just used to just cut the stream off at the OBS level. And again, that's boring technical stuff. Nothing that really you need to even worry about. All right, so let's see if there was anything else. Chris Williams says, I can't find any third party. I'm waiting for SYS. SYS is third party, my friend. So the problem is that printer is probably locked by firmware against any kind of third party use. The only solution maybe will come from Chipless Solutions. www.chiplesssolutions.com. Chipless Solutions, one word. Maybe they will come up with a firmware for that particular printer that will then render it chipless. In other words, what will happen is whatever system they develop for it, you will always see the ink levels as full. And you just have to systematically keep your cartridges or SYS unit filled with ink. Chris Williams says, same here. I spoke to Marut and they said they're working on a SYS, but have no time frame on when it will be available. I would take that with a huge grain of salt. No, a big chunk of salt. because what good would that be if they cannot come up with a way to solve the chip problem? Okay, that would keep that printer unusable. You could load up a truckload, a tank full, 1,000 gallons of ink per color. You still could not use the printer because the chip is what allows the printer to operate. He said, "Oh man, Jose, I wish I knew you personally. You're so interesting. Thank you." Okay, so I should sell my XP. I thought you didn't have one. I thought you didn't have it yet. And buy something else. Yeah, I mean, if you are dead on set on, printing with third-party inks, I see nowhere where I have read that that someone has a system available. The guy that would know that would be my friend Mike from Precisioncolors. And again, I haven't spoken to him in months, so I need to find out whether the Chipless Solutions will cover that. And again, it's a matter of just checking. Just go to www.chiplesssolutions.com. Let me write it down. And see if they will have something for that printer. I highly doubt it at this point, tell you the truth. Okay. Oh, let me get this other information here in case you guys want to order a print. And again, don't forget, if you need a mug, you know where to get it. Any of the videos that you watch on any of the browsers will have the links for that. Again, they're wonderful. They look really great. And I myself use them all the time for my own personal coffee needs. Let's see. Let's go over here. Channel. And I want to just go ahead and give you guys this link in case you end up wanting to order one of those prints. I've sold a few of them and people have loved them. There you go. You can order from there and just simply state what it is that you want. Of course, the print with the outdoor cafe. And I will go ahead and send it to you, but again, not overseas. I can't afford to do that. So it'll be $40 including shipping to the US and Hawaii and Puerto Rico, of course. Alrighty. So, Badger Tail. Oh, Art. Art is here. Oh, wow. All right. Does anyone here know how to solve color banding on an EPSON Workforce 7710? It prints fine on 8.5 by 11, but color banding occurs when printing on larger paper. I've done several vertical and horizontal alignments. Is it a constant banding problem? All I can say is if it prints okay on the smaller paper, it could be a transfer problem. I don't know, the larger paper. All I can think of is that on a larger paper, maybe it's heavier, more difficult to transport. I don't know. It shouldn't be any kind of difference between any size. If it's going to band because of a misaligned printhead, it's going to band regardless. So unless again it changes or something happens to the transport system, what kind of banding is it? First of all, there's overlapping banding, and then there's a banding that causes a gap. Okay, so real true printed banding due to alignment problems will manifest itself two ways. Overlapping banding, that means that if it lays down 1/8 of an inch worth of print and it advances just under 1/8 of an inch, you'll have overlapping. So that's what I mean. The printhead alignment really is not the correct term. You're trying to match the amount of ink that is laid down exactly to the pixel, to the advance rate of the paper. So if you lay down 1/8 of an inch, it has to advance 1/8 of an inch, just a molecule under that. And then it lays down another 1/8 of an inch so that the two adjacent passes just basically overlap, not overlap, but interlock themselves. And there's no gap. If it's advancing less amount, then the next 1/8 of an inch will overlap the edge of the previous one. You'll get a dark band, okay? If it advances too much, you'll get a little bit of daylight between the two passes. You see? So that's why I'm asking you, what kind of banding is it? Do you see a dark line between two passes or a lighter line between two passes? And those are true printhead alignments problems. Now, if you cannot solve it by aligning, then your encoder strip is dirty. Okay. Where is that? It's in the back wall of the printhead area. So when you lift up your printer lid, look on the back wall, you will see like a mylar strip, okay, running the length. It's hooked up by 2 springs. Don't unhook it. That passes through a sensor behind the printhead carriage, okay? It's like a GPS, basically. It's a locator. The strip has vertical lines that are microscopic. You can't see them. And the sensor sees them. And depending on what line it sees, it knows where it is located along that maximum travel, okay, from right to left. So it knows at all times where it is located. When that gets a little dirty from overspray or other factors, the sensor can no longer accurately locate the printhead's position. And that has been said to cause these head alignment problems that cannot be fixed by aligning the printhead, because there's always going to be errors in positioning. So you said it's overlapping. Yeah, I'm getting a band. Yeah, so that's the problem, probably. That's the problem. Check out that strip. It's called an encoder strip. It is just a little clear mylar-like strip in the back wall of the printer. So open up the printer, look at the back, okay? And how do you clean it? Well, it's kind of gingerly. It's not easy. You could, of course, because that is threaded through the printhead assembly where the sensor lies. So you cannot unhook it from the ends. Turn on the printer. Once the printhead unlocks, pull the plug, move the printer to the left, get some Q-tips, long Q-tips, and some isopropyl alcohol from the drugstore, 70%. And just very, very carefully. You can actually just reach behind with another Q-tip, clean the back as well as you can, clean the front as well as you can, let it fully dry, slide the printhead manually over to the other side, so now you expose the other half that you did not clean yet. Again, do that. And cross your fingers and pray to the printer, you know what, and then try again and see if you could perform a proper head alignment. Now, when you perform the head alignment, do you get like an absolute clear result on the little patches that you print? Or are you always seeing some sort of defect? In other words, the choices that you make are never perfect. You see what I mean? That's what tells you that strip is dirty, because no matter which combination you pick, it's always got a little bit of a banding or a little bit of an overlap or so forth. You know, that tells you that none of the choices are correct. Okay. And what I would suggest, once you do that, then run it again and then zero out, enter your numbers, accept it, zero it out, come back and redo it again. Okay. And then create some sort of like a gray tone, just a grain overall tone in Photoshop or something like that, and try to print that. Okay. And see if you get any kind of problems. Now, another way to possibly diminish that problem is to use only unidirectional printing. And that's accessed in the driver settings. You have to dig deep in there and see if you can find a unidirectional setting. That way, it'll only print in one direction. It'll print paper will advance, the head will return, it will print again. It's not going to print in both directions. So it's going to take twice as long. Okay. But that has been said to create a better results when you have banding that is not fixable by performing a head alignment. Okay. But first do that. I mean, try to do that and see where you can go. And if you choose to clean your encoder strip, just be careful when you do it, because you can cause more harm than good. Yeah, you said you get patches. Yeah, when you do the head alignment, you print a set of little rectangular patches, and then you pick the one with the least amount of overlapping or gapping. Are any of those choices perfect, or do they all have a defect on them? If they all have a defect on them, that means that there's another problem, okay? That none of those choices can bring that head to the proper alignment. That happened to one of my 2200s. I could not get it to work. So, unidirectional and the highest possible quality setting. That will overlap the layment of ink. So the little droplets of ink, it'll create a more smooth dithering, and you may not see it. You may not see it. But again, if it's there, it's always going to be there. Chris Williams says there's a system for the XP 15,000 shown on YouTube from a Chinese company. However, it's fairly ambiguous. Yeah, I wouldn't trust it as far as I could throw an elephant. Okay. Okay, Art says that one is always perfect. Okay, well that should be it. If you actually can see a perfect set of numbers, in other words, I believe it's 5. 5 is the perfect number, right? You go from 5 to like 10 and 5 to 0 or to 1. One way. If you get away from 5, that's bad in this direction and bad in this other direction. Overlapping and then a gap. 5 is perfect. Is that what you're getting? Please let me know, because we're nearing 3.5 hours here. And I think I need to go upstairs and get another drink. And Chris, thank you once again for that super chat. Appreciate that, brother. Yeah, go ahead and increase your print quality to the max and see what happens. Change it to unidirectional. Print an image with some like gradual tonalities, like something with a sky, where the sky is graduating from slightly darker above and slightly, and slightly brighter below, and just see how that does. And make sure that you orient it so that the area of sky is in the direction of the printhead travel. Well, I don't know what else to say. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Let's go ahead and play some music, and I'm going to try to say goodbye the right way here and see if that works. So we're going to play some music. Not too loud. Same one we played earlier. And we'll go ahead and switch over to the farewell. Don't leave yet. And I will announce this on Facebook. We're going to be away Saturday. So the live stream will be on Sunday at an earlier time, 4 o'clock. Okay? That should help the folks in Europe, because they stay up late for me, and I don't want to keep everybody late. All right. So again, no live stream next Saturday. Sunday. Okay, the day after. So let me see what date that is. That will be on the 8th. The 8th of December. Okay? All right. See everybody next time. And again, we'll turn on the music. And we'll switch over to the farewell screen. Happy printing, everybody. Bye-bye.